And we are live here at the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by filmmaker and author Jeff Lieberman. It's very good to have you here.
Very good to be had.
Yes. And I loved your book, not just because you're here, and it would be rude if I said I didn't like your book, but
it would really be funny if I read your book and it sucks. I mean, stinko.
Has anyone ever done that?
No,
like
nobody ever does that. Nobody ever does that in anything.
Yeah.
You do it behind your back.
All right. So you have to watch next week to find out what I really thought of it.
In La La Land, do you know that if you have a screening, because I lived in Beverly Hills for a long time. I'd go to all these screenings. If you go to a screening and they have food and everything, if the people stay to eat the food, that means they like the movie.
Interesting.
If they know the filmmaker, they're invited. If they don't like the movie, they're in the parking lot. They'll duke the guy $100 to get their car first so they can get the hell out of there. And I'd learned and I realized, I said, yeah, I do the same thing. You don't want to go up to somebody and go, gee, that was, if you didn't like it. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to say anything. So anybody that stays like the movie.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Have you done that? Have you backed out? Like, I don't really want to.
Oh, yeah, that's why I related to it. And the way I found out that this is an actual thing is when I did, But Seriously, that comedy thing that I talk about in the book. And it was, I don't know, whatever the Directors Guild holds on Sunset, it's like 550 people. It's a big auditorium. And everybody that in comedy that you can name, not necessarily people that were, hey.
Terrible Troy has joined us. We started a little early, Troy, so you weren't late.
Yeah. You're late to the party. We were just talking about you.
Yeah. It was all bad. No.
I figured as much. That's what I was hoping.
Yeah. He's smoking weed. Get that out. I got asthma. Yeah. So Jerry Seinfeld, people that were not in the movie, the documentary, and then Richard Pryor was there and everybody, that you could name. If a bomb went off, all comedy would be dead.
It would have been the end of comedy.
What's that?
It would have been the end of comedy.
It would have been the end. It would be like American Pie, the plane crashing, the end of rock and roll. Only it wouldn't be. But anyway, I'm really nervous. Thing is over. Everybody's applauding. I'm thinking, what else are they going to do? Rob Reiner's the executive producer. Of course, they're going to do that. Great. And then get the fuck out of here. Because I was used to that, And I went over. And so in the whole lobby area of the DGA, they had high-end catered everything like a restaurant, And all these people stayed and they're lined up with their trays like in the cafeteria at high school, these big celebrities. And I went over to Marvin Worth. I don't know if you know that name, but Marvin Worth was like the hippest guy I ever met. He was a manager. He managed Malcolm X, Lenny Bruce, Bette Midler. He made the Rose. He was a hipster.
Wow.
And he's standing over the corner. I went over to him and said, Martin, what do you think? Because I really wanted to know what he thought of it, because he was like Mr. Comedy. He says, what do I think? The hell do you get what I think? It's what they think. And he pointed to the line. I said, what about it? He says, you think they would be here if they didn't love the thing? Every one of them could buy a restaurant tonight, let alone, they're not here for the free food. They're here because they love the thing. And, one by one, Lily Tomlin, and I met all these people loving this thing because they could have split. It's a valuable life lesson. When I have a screening in like Tribeca, they screen Satan's Little Helper twice. So the first time, the crew, how you know you don't have a real audience? When your name comes up and everybody applauds. That's a bullshit audience. That's not an audience. So you get nothing from that.
So what kind of what do you want then from your audience?
Not to applaud my name. That means they know me.
Mm-hmm.
if they know me, it's not a real audience. They go, gee, Jeff, that's great. So
I see what you're saying. Okay.
you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to know what people in the movie theater that, and then if I go to a screening, like I did a thing 2 weeks ago in Los Feliz, what's it called? The Cinematheque.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed Blue Sunshine. I was there. Now, that's a half audience. It was sold out. But from what I'm talking about, when my name came up, they applauded. I was there. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a real. They're gonna, unless everybody splits before the Q&A. That's a tell. If they're like gone, you look out. They don't want to say, yeah, it sucked. Well, I want to ask questions about it. So you could gauge these things. Why are we talking about this?
I don't
Anybody
know,
wanna
but it's
make movies out
interesting.
there?
Yeah, why not?
Oh, yeah.
Get out of your mind.
Well, we do have, by the way, that is out now, Blue Sunshine from Synapse Films. There's tons of special features on here. And how sick are you of talking about Blue Sunshine at this point? I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But you've talked a lot about the movie lately.
Yeah, it got to a point where I started to not talk about the movie more than I was talking more about the sociology of behind the movie and what was going on and LSD, and then the nuts and bolts of how did it,
Mm-hmm.
That's the boring part. That's the part that people want to hear because they want to make movies, I guess.
Yeah, well, in your book, what I find a lot of it interesting, but right away, it kind of like you were laying the foundation of, want to be like a storyteller, and also talking about like different like social, political aspects, through your film, and talk about something not necessarily what you just see, but there's more to it like that. Like watching, the science fiction movies of the 50s, and they're really they're about giant monsters, but they're about more than that.
Yeah, well, that's why I didn't consciously say, oh, I'm going to make horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Back then. It was just that it was the only form of filmmaking that was match my personality, that you can say, you could pretty much say do anything you want. It's like rock and roll, as opposed to like classical music. And so the audience gives you that, well, it's a horror movie. So of course you can have a guy with 3 heads, whatever you can do. And I naturally gravitated to, that's the best place to throw in a lot of social commentary. It's just naturally married to it. And then, I saw it. I wasn't the first one, because the guys that did the sci-fi movies in the 50s that I grew up, I saw those, the radiation movies. And you learn a lot. You learn that the government will lie about anything to kids, and they get you. Nancy Pelosi said, we got to get them while they're young. What does the religions all do that? Get them indoctrinated when they're young. The Dylan song, we learn to hate the Russians throughout our whole God on our side. What's going on? Oh, you got to hate Putin, bad, hate, we, good. I've been hearing this all my life. So the Russians were supposed to drop an atomic bomb on us. But when I say us, I mean us, my school.
Right, your school.
And on TV, if you can imagine, all the news, all the TV is going on. It's not when it's going to happen. I mean, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when. And so the Department of Education told kids in schools about duck and cover. You're going to duck under your desk, wooden desk. And the governor of New York said everybody has to have a bomb shelter in their basement and a month's supply of, and then you're watching the Twilight Zone or whatever about radiation. It was all this coordinated. Hollywood was not even doing anything malicious. They were just cashing in on the fear that the government is spending billions of dollars to brainwash everybody. Why? Military industrial concept. We have to have a bigger bomb and a faster jet and a bigger military. That was Eisenhower's speech. So when I saw all this stuff, I went, I see what they're doing. I was a little ahead, but it scared the shit out of me because they have to know that radiation will make a rabbit into a three. They would show these monsters and say, scientists say exposure to radiation for a certain amount of time, and they get much bigger and horns, and this is supposed to be real. Hollywood makes The Incredible Shrinking Man, The Day the Earth. So it's all these movies based on Godzilla gets.
Oh yeah, and them with the giant.
Wakes them up. I mean, and they could just say anything. You don't know. Oh, that's bullshit, and it scared the shit out of you. So that was the big lesson. It had nothing to do with filmmaking. So when I made Blue Sunshine, I go, well, here's another one. They bullshit us about LSD, like unbelievable.
Would you say that's your first like movie that you made where you like you really had that in your mind that I'm trying to say something with this?
No, the first one was my first film that you can see on YouTube. It's called The Ringer. Yeah, 18-minute short, 16.
I should have asked feature, I guess, but yeah.
Yeah, but that was the first one, and it was pretty strongly. I mean, it still holds up. I mean, I was 20. I'm in it, by the way, and David Groh is in it, and Charlie McGregor, who was in Superfly and Friend Connection.
Okay.
Yeah, and David Groh right after that got Rhoda. Remember Rhoda?
Oh wow, yeah, Rhoda's big show, yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I did this little film, but it's very and it won every award it could possibly win, and that's how I was able to do Squirm. But I didn't put any political anything in Squirm, and leave it to the critics. They'll find it anyway. Well, it's a statement on the ecology, and it's part of the nature runs amok. I'm not thinking of any of that. They tell you.
Just go with it then. Just you got it.
Yeah, what am I going to argue? And
Yep.
then if I do argue, this happens on Blue Sunshine. They go, well, it was obviously influenced by the Vietnam War. The foreign press, always. I go, and you know where they get that from? They look at the date, and like with Romero's films, it's 1976. The Vietnam War was still going on. They're so out of what Americans really think that they think, well, if I lived during that time, that means even subliminally, you can't win the argument and say, I was not thinking about that at all. Yeah. They go, you don't know that you were really thinking of it because you were in that time. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're right.
Yep, they know more about me than I thought.
There is a critic, what's his name? I never met him, but there's a critic in London. He'll come to me. The guy does know me better than me. He's been on those, those not directors' commentaries, but they have other people on the BluRays.
Yeah.
And he was on one of them, and he went off on a thing about me. I'm going, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Things like you had forgotten and stuff.
Huh?
What were they? Things that you had forgotten?
No, it's
stuff that you didn't intend. Yeah.
No,
okay.
Me,
just about the movie itself.
His read about me personally and career and all that shit. And who thinks about that stuff? So you need somebody else to be saying it to even look in the mirror or whatever. But what's his name? I'm going to blurt it out.
All right, later on in the show, yeah, we'll hear who the film critic was in London. So, kind of like we were saying though, along those lines, what was it like to just go back and write this book, and look over your whole career?
Well, I didn't sit down and write a book. What happened was, over the years, my wife always, I would tell these singular stories at parties, and just recounting stuff that people have, like if you see a guy who runs a plumbing company and you're at a cocktail party, he doesn't hold court and say, well, we had this stuffed up drain and it was overtime, and I had to pay my guys. Everybody would flee with their drinks, right? But if you're talking about filmmaking, everybody like, oh, my cousin Aaron's brother went to UCLA. Do you know him? Because they're all. It's something about the entertainment business and movies and anything just draws everybody in. If somebody else was a physicist with really something interesting to say, he'll be sitting in the corner with a fucking Bloody Mary. That's the way society is. So I find myself in that situation a lot. And my wife said, "Why don't you write down some of these stories because they're entertaining?" And I went, "Yeah, okay." And I wrote them over the years. I had twice as many that's in the book because I was just writing down stories, and a lot of the stories had to do with my life that had nothing to do with making movies. And then the idea came to me from my kids so they could know me, or my grandchildren. I have grandchildren, and go like, I don't know shit about my great grandparents, whatever. So might as well just write it down. And then I realized, well, I got to put it in chronological order. And then I realized, well, take out the stuff that's not filmed. So maybe I could actually sell this. There's an audience for the book, not my personal shit. And I weeded all it out. So basically, the book was 80% done by just putting everything in time order.
Yeah.
And then I just made bridges to make it make sense. And
there is some stuff though for your personal life, like the Woodstock stories.
Yeah. Well, I tied that in because it was my art director that was supposed to be the head of the Food for Love at Woodstock. Charles Baxter, no longer with us. No. But that's a true, everything in the thing is a true story. It seems crazy, but it's true.
So what was it about George Burns that's so special to you? Because, you have lots of stories in the book about, big name people and stuff, but George Burns was like the one guy that really, not that you were nervous, but like he did mean a lot to you. And, I don't know if you still have the cigar.
Yeah, there was something about when I realized, holy shit, this is George Burns. I've seen him on television growing up, and Gracie Allen, and he was like the old Hollywood. But I don't know. I met guys like that through my father anyway. There was something about it that just got me. And, and then he, they say, don't meet your heroes, whatever. Boy, was that statement went out the window because this guy was the real fucking deal, the real deal. Not an ounce of showbiz, Hollywood, anything. Right. And anybody who's 80 years old and can put away at least 4 martinis, maybe 5, still be on his feet. And I probably does it every night. And he lived to 100.
Yeah. And not a big guy either. So like he didn't weigh a lot. So.
Oh no, when we went out to dinner with these 2 girls, which you'll find out in the book.
Yes.
One of them was a beard, which I have to explain what a beard is. But anyway, we're going to get into his Cadillac. I took one look at him and look at his Cadillac in the garage. It's like he can't see over the steering wheel. There's no way. And I said, George, I'm driving, and we're all drunk already. But this was before, and we got into my rented Chevy and we went out to dinner with him in the front seat, and his feet didn't even touch the ground. And he's smoking always. Cigars going in the car. Girls are in the back seat. It was like I remember saying, "This is hot rods to hell." We got the babes in the back. Where are we gonna go? Good stuff.
And you still have the cigar?
I have the cigar. You want me to go get it?
I mean, if you want, I don't want to put you out, but it is pretty wild that you kept the cigar for all this time.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
I'll be back with the cigar.
All right, very good. Jeff has the cigar, by the way. The name of the book is Day of the Living Me, Adventures of a Subversive Cult Filmmaker from the Golden Age, which is a hell of a name for a book.
That is a great name. I love it.
Yes. And by the way, Troy, you weren't late. We actually went live a little early.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, man.
Well, me and Jeff were really talking before the show, and I was like, this is some good stuff. I think we should just go live. So I kind of went
Oh,
live.
okay.
And I didn't
That's
play the
awesome.
theme or anything, but yeah. So if people are wondering about the theme, by the way, hit the like button, subscribe, share this out on all the social media pages, your Twitter, all that stuff.
Hit that like button.
Yes.
Now, you're not going to be able to.
Let me see here.
Oh my God.
Put you in the spotlight. All right. Looks like it's glowing because of the light, but
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's really cool.
What it says
Yeah.
is, it says to Jeff, "Don't smoke it, George Burns." And
Well, you follow the
That's
direction.
Yep.
it's a Garcia Vega. I mean, can't think of them. They were like 15 cents. El
Wow.
Producto Queen, the kind you get in the gas station,
Uh-huh.
with the sliding glass thing.
Yeah.
That's all he ever smoked.
That
Oh,
makes it
wow.
even better that he
Yeah,
didn't smoke
I
some
think so,
kind of,
too.
$50 cigar or
When we
something.
left, when I walked out the door and he had a box for the guests, he had a box of a Dunhill Monte Cruz, which was an expensive cigar.
Oh, okay.
And they were Cuban. And he goes, "Take a handful, kid." Take a handful. And I said, "George, I'm not rich like you, but I can afford a Dunhill Monte Cruz, right?" I said, "I want one of yours." And the reason he kept smoking these, he told me, because they don't go out. It's like a clothesline. So he doesn't. So when he was doing vaudeville, he didn't want to stop and have to keep lighting his cigar. So he just stuck
okay.
with these, even though he became a big star. It was the only thing. So I said to him, we were talking about the Sunshine Boys. I said, in the Sunshine Boys, he says, somebody died. Where? In Variety. Right? That was the bit that, how do you know that somebody died? You learn in Variety.
Mhm.
And he was in Sunshine Boys. He won the Oscar. So aside from that, when I wandered around we were fucking out drunk, and he's dancing with the girls in the living room, and I go into the den. I'm wandering around. I see the Oscar on the floor, covered with dust.
Oh, wow.
And it looked like an old bowling trophy, And I pick it up and it says Academy Award Best Supporting Actor, Sunshine Boys. I said, "Hey, George, this is not a bowling trophy. It should be up on a mantle with a light." And he goes, he sees me from the distance. He goes, "Put that down, kid. Don't belong to me. It belongs to Benny." Because Jack Benny, his best friend, was supposed to play that role.
Oh.
And he got sick. He actually died. But he asked, was it Hal Ross or something? Could you cast George Burns, my best friend, in that role? So he didn't believe that it belonged to him. That's a classy guy.
Wow.
Even though he won the Academy Award, he said it was Benny's award. So I wanted anything from him, right? It's my instant on. And I said, "George, I'm not going to smoke. I'm not smoking a cigar until maybe I'll outlive you," because he was 80.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and I was like 38. I said, "But if I don't, if I don't, if I outlive you and I hear that you died in Variety, that's when I'll smoke it." He takes a cigar out of my pocket. He goes, and his butler comes over, knew just when, and he goes, gives him a little piece of paper, takes a cigar out of this, and then rolls the cigar in the paper. And he wrote something on it. So when I got to the car, the girl said, "Don't you want to read what it said?" It says, "To Jeff, don't smoke it, George Burns." And I'm thinking, at that time, I'm thinking, well, if I smoke it, that means he died, right? That's what I said. So he's saying, don't smoke it. 20 years later, he died. And everybody who went in my office saw this thing and knew the story. And they were all calling me on the phone. "What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to smoke it? You can smoke it?" And my brother, who knew damn well I don't want to smoke this piece of shit, and he said, no, what he meant was don't smoke it because you'll die. Because it's like, petrified wood 20 years later, like he knew he was going to live a long time. I went, I like that answer. So that's why I still have it. My brother bailed me. It's a great memento.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
he was something.
Yeah. Your stories with George Burns in the book are really fun. Really the whole book is fun. We'll talk more about the book as we go on, but I do want to Squirm. So Rick Baker does the effects, but was Rick Baker really known at that time? So he wasn't.
No. He was the I don't want to call it apprentice, but like Dick Smith was the big guy, and he was Dick Smith's protege or something.
Yeah.
So he did Squirm. I found this out from somebody, like John Landis told me. Somebody told me, I think it was Dana Gould. Dana Gould told me that it's the reason he only, because Dana loved the book and he had me on his podcast. And I had no idea. He said that Rick Baker, he knows more about horror. He's not a horror guy, but he's encyclopedic. He said that Dick Smith got King Kong, and he needed Rick to do the King Kong with him. So the deal that was made, I had nothing to do with getting him, and it was the producer, and I didn't know who he was, but he made a deal that he'll design the prosthetics for the movie, but he can't be on the set when we shoot. And it didn't matter to me because so he made all those things. He had to come in, R.A. down. We had to cast that role first, immediately, boom. And then he flew in from California, took a mold of his face, and he had to have 2 first-class tickets, and one of them was for the face mold.
Yeah.
And he in the box. And when he came back, he explained it to me, and he said, "These things are like tissue." Because it was the early days of putting separate prosthetics, not a mask, so you can articulate your face and make it look real.
Yeah.
He said, but it's okay, but it's not meant to pull a worm through it, and you could just tear it open. But we didn't have enough money to test it, so I'm going to test it one time, and that's when I'm shooting it. If it would have pulled the thing open, that's it. There was no number 2. I had 3 cameras and worked well.
Yeah. No, and so how many real worms did you use for the movie?
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy movie.
I think I don't know, they threw numbers around, but it was at least 500,000.
Wow.
I know when the saltwater worms, they bought out all of New England, and the spring came around, the fishermen, there was no Lyceria worms, they were gone.
Neal and our uncle would have been mad. He would have been taking a fit.
Yeah, Troy
no
and I,
night crawlers.
We grew up on Cape Cod, and it was funny when I was reading your book. Our uncle actually taught us how to get night crawlers. We didn't use electricity, but
those were not night crawlers. These are saltwater worms. They're Glyceria. They have the pinchers.
Yeah.
Which they had in
the weird sea worm things. Yeah.
Yeah, and the blood. You cut them, and the blood all over. Those are the ones, and they really did bite.
Oh yeah.
So if you electrify them, of course that would
happen. Was there such a thing as a worm wrangler at the time? How do you come about we need 500,000 worms?
A worm wrangler where?
At that time when you're making Squirm, what were there worm wranglers? Was there did you just
we call them wranglers? I mean, you would call them prop guys, whatever, but we call them wranglers, and the worst. I mean, if we ever did a making of Squirm, you'd have pickets today, all of a sudden, worms are people too, worms lives matter or something. And,
I'm going to make that shirt
for that. I know worms lives matter. I love it.
And so what we did was we made a grid in the whole living room, with copper wiring, right, and hooked it up to a rheostat, high voltage rheostat. These guys threw thousands of worms onto that grid, put the camera low, and I go action, and they turn up the rheostat, and the worms all jump up in the air.
Oh man,
It's really
wow.
cool. So
Yeah.
now I got, okay, take two, action, and they jump up at like just halfway up, right, with
Mhm.
another angle. Number three, they just twitched, and then these
Oh,
guys
no.
come in with these snow shovels, and they shovel the worms out and bring in new
Wow.
worms.
Uh-huh.
That's how we did it. That's how we did that.
Joe Mazzella here. He says that you're his favorite director. And Squirm and Blue Sunshine are my favorites. I'm proud to be one of the Squirmers. Oh, I did not know that Squirm has their own fan base called Squirmers.
No, I didn't know that either. That's awesome.
Squirmers?
Squirmers. Maybe you didn't know either. Maybe
Yeah.
you've
Well,
learned
I know
something
it
being on
now.
the show here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get together and make these worm lives matter and sell them to the Squirmers.
That's actually, it's a good. It would if you do with the Squirm logo.
Yeah.
Oh, that
I
would be
give
awesome.
you,
Yeah.
I hereby give you permission.
Oh well, thank you. Actually,
That's
I'll
awesome.
actually work on it.
We sold Squirm. You know who owns Squirm right now?
No.
Amazon.
Oh wow.
Because Amazon bought MGM bought Squirm. They distributed for so many years, and then they bought it outright with me and the late Edgar Lansbury retaining the rights to do a remake or a sequel. We can do it, but we have to give them right of first refusal. But then subsequently, Amazon bought MGM. So if you watch, I think they call it, when they show any of those movies, it says an Amazon, MGM Studios. They kept the lion and the whole bit, but yeah.
So, would that be something you'd ever be interested in doing a remake or a sequel to Squirm?
Yeah, I have a really cool way to do it, and I'm in talks with the estate of Edgar, because it's both of us, so it would be a high budget, really high budget movie, but it'd be not anything like you think it's going to be.
Yeah. Has anyone ever come to you, like someone else, like that wanted to do a remake of any of your movies?
Yes, especially Blue Sunshine.
Oh wow.
In fact, Blue Sunshine was optioned by MGM a long time ago. What was the guy's name? He did Girl with the Pearl Earring.
Oh, okay. Wow.
A director, British director, good director. But he showed us that movie, and it's like, what has this got to do with a sequel to Blue Sunshine?
Right.
But anyway, I wanted to see what they did, and they optioned it, and then he got his name is Peter something Weber. I don't know. Then he got the Young Hannibal. Is that called Young Hannibal?
Oh, Mads Mikkelsen, maybe?
No.
Oh,
who's in it?
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
you mean the one where he's like the prequel?
Yeah.
Just
So
called
I'm
Hannibal.
talking about this director. He left the Blue Sunshine thing to go and direct that. I didn't blame him. And then the option ran out. That was the only. But people try all the time, call me up. It's got to be a big legitimate thing. But the thing with Squirm, if it ever does happen, it would be probably wound up with MGM and Amazon, so they could do it, big money.
Yeah. Well, you'd have a problem with the real worms today, I guess. You couldn't be electrocuting the worms.
No, it'd all be CGI. You wouldn't.
Oh.
No, especially this idea I have. It really lends itself to it.
Joe brings up, he says, the end theme song in Squirm is very haunting and addictive.
Yeah, it is, but what it had to do with the movie, I have no idea. They own the rights. I mean, they did Godspell. They were, big Broadway producers. So they had songwriters and all this stuff. And, you want to put that at the end of the movie? And they said, they owned it, but they also thought it fit. And for some reason, people not only like it, but say that it's just as much a part of the movie as anything else.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Todd Quality Yeager, in the 70s, PG films had stronger content. Were you surprised Squirm had a PG rating? And he brings up David Schmoller was surprised when his film Tourist Trap got a PG rating as well.
Squirm had a R rating, and then Sam Markoff, the theaters all said, no, not the theaters. It had an R rating, the ratings board, and then when they said if you want to have it on television, you got to get a PG rating. And there was a lot of theaters that Sam Markoff couldn't get a movie in if it was R.
Oh.
So they had to cut it to get a PG. And they actually said the ratings board, usually you say too violent, too much sex, too much swear. It's the ick factor. That's what they said. Ick. It's like you get one schmucky guy, and you destroy.
That's too funny.
Yeah. So there was two. They actually had to put the PG on the posters. They went around and pasted this PG over the R,
wow.
so the younger people can go and see it.
We got rid of 38 seconds worth of ick. We'll be okay to go now.
I like that. Yeah. That's probably just like was that ever in a movie? Do you know? Was that ever in a movie before that? The ick factor?
No, no, they didn't. No, I mean, I doubt it.
Yeah. And like you said, it's just like this person. One guy doesn't like worms. Like maybe he didn't like mustard. Maybe
you know what?
He's like, this
no,
is
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Squirm, right? It got a tremendous reception at Cannes. Mm-hmm. I didn't go. I wasn't invited. I didn't even know there was a thing. I was 26. I didn't know there was such a thing as a film festival or anything. Yeah. And they went, and so a lot of people. It was the most sought after product.
Oh wow!
At Cannes, and then Sam Markoff took it for the world and gave the producers more money than it cost to make. Mm-hmm. They were already in profit after the Cannes Film Festival, but he took the whole world, and so what would happen? Before the Cannes Film Festival, the producers showed it to Columbia Pictures because Columbia did Godspell, the movie of Godspell with them. And they brought it out to California and they gave them the print. And first the head of marketing at Columbia saw it and said, I love this movie. I know just how to sell it and we should buy it. And it would be for double what it's a studio. And then it had to get, they said, we want to make a deal, but it has to get through one more, the head of the studio, David Beagleman. If he was out of town, he would have said, just buy it, low budget. He went, the story goes, because I wasn't there, they have these screenings, it's only one person, and the projectionist. What happened was he was on the way to some dinner party with his wife, Gladys Beagleman. She's wearing a mink coat, and they're watching Squirm on the way. And when that Roger thing, the one that the advertising guy said, I could sell this, just show that everybody, it's a killer. It's the money shot. When that happened, she stood up. She says, if you have anything to do with this piece of shit, I want a divorce. We know that from the projectionist. And there went my Hollywood, it's Columbia Pictures, my first movie. And it's like, what's his name when he did Friday the 13th, and Paramount picked it up. We were all making these pretty much the same budget, Carpenter, and the big cone is if the studio picks it up. It was very rare. Mm-hmm. And so then Sam took it. It was like a mini studio because he was worldwide. It was called American International Pictures. And the rest is history. And they got bought by Orion, and then MGM bought Orion, and now Amazon. It's like the little fish get the big fish.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's pretty cool that how many years later, I get these young people that, you know, I saw it on KF2QR at 2, and I never took a shower again. You know, it's like a whole generation of brain damage.
Let's just say those shots are really cool with the worms coming
Oh,
through
yeah.
the holes in the shower in the shower.
Yeah, we did all that. You know, whenever, I don't know what they do today because they don't use practical effects. When you're doing it, I learned the best thing you can do is do everything but the money shot, the real money shot, and wait till after you rough cut the movie and do it somewhere else and calm down and
Oh,
get
okay.
some sleep, and then do that money shot that you can do anywhere. There's no tight shot that you could shoot in New Zealand or in Brooklyn. It's this wide,
Right.
you know, so you're going to just, and I learned that on Just Before Dawn because to get the hand.
Yeah, which is a great ending.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
That was
yeah.
Matthew Mungle is another great, he did Just Before Dawn, but I'm trying to think if he did, I think he did Blue Sunshine also, Matthew Mungle.
Okay.
And I hired him for,
Yeah.
but he was great. But that thing, I said, look, let's wait. I have a house in Westchester. We'll do it in the backyard. It'll look like Oregon because you're only talking about dirt, you know. I knew, but I want to know exactly what the shot's going to be. And in order to know that, I should cut the picture up to that point. And so that's what I did. And this is a funny side story. When my AD, assistant director, Fred Berner, who's now a big producer, he said, I said to him, he said, what are you want a girl, right? We're not going to fly in Deborah Benson just for her hand. It could be anybody, right? She's in LA. This is New York. So he said, what does she have to look like? I said, I don't care what she looks like. She doesn't have to be blonde like Deborah. I want a small hand, small female hand, so it will fit into the mouth of the monster guy. It's a big prosthetic, face. In fact, somebody posted that on Facebook. I didn't even know they had pictures of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
like from the set?
Matthew putting makeup in my dining room. And so they go, okay, this is Susie. I went, hey, how you doing? You got to I didn't even look at her. Put your hand down. Thing in. Cut to, as they say in the movies, how many years later? 40 years later, 30. I find out from Fred, who I'm still friends with. I went to a play, and he says, oh, Susie Essman was here the other day. You know her, right? I said, oh, yeah. I know her socially through Catch a Rising Star and stuff like that. And he says, no, you don't know how you know her? I said, no. He said, you remember Just Before Dawn? That was her hand.
Oh, wow.
I said, what? He said, I remembered her from that because he got her. He had to drive her home and everything. I didn't have any idea that I went to the theater with her. I went to a Friars Club thing, sat next to her. Neither of us knew because she didn't, to her, It was just some stupid thing she had to do with her fist. That's her fist.
Oh, that's
I told
great.
her when finally I wrote to her and I said, you tell Larry David that, I launched your career with the fisting scene. But yeah, that's her.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is. That's wild.
Yeah. For the big scene in Squirm where it's like the whole bottom level of the house is just filled with worms and he gets kind of devoured by in a big pit of worms, like just walk us through like filming that, like this. So I assume it wasn't all worms. It's like because
first of all, you can't fill a room. I mean, you could, but there's no point filling a room 5 feet deep in worms. And you're only going to see the top surface.
Yeah.
Right? So we built a giant scaffolding throughout the whole living room, and then put this like a worm-colored mesh canvas over the whole thing, poured all the fake worms on it, and then had the local Boy Scout troops come in, like 20 kids. And they were all underneath, crouched over, right? So when I would say action, they would make their backs go up and it would make the worms jump up into the air.
Oh, that's awesome.
In theory, I go action, and all they're doing is like throwing worms at each other. They're having a worm. They're doing what I would have done in that exact
As a
situation.
kid, yeah.
Like, fuck you, with that, you know, we're having a worm fight. I went, okay. I said, I got to take a shot and use the psychology. I'm not that far away from being 10 years old. I got like 3/4 of my brain is still 10. So it's so easy for me to go into that schoolyard thing. And I go, because I was a con man when I was 10. This is what I would have done. I said, does everybody see that fireplace? Because they knew you can't see, nobody can see them. They're under this thing. Yeah. Okay, who's the closest to the fireplace? I am. What's your name? Barry. You know, I said, okay, Barry, when your worms go up, everybody's going to know those are your worms. You're not anonymous anymore. And everybody else, you look at that fireplace, and they're looking at the fireplace as the center of attention. If you can make them go high and high and high, I was just bullshitting them to get them to think I'm going to be in a movie. See what I mean? The difference.
Yeah.
The next thing I go, roll it. Those fucking things almost hit the ceiling. That's what you see in the movie. It was like one. And then the worms on top, again, it was only the corner of the living room, you know, it wasn't the whole living room. And somebody told me, oh, Spielberg, and who's the guy that directed Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Oh, George Lucas?
No, he was a producer.
Oh.
The other guy.
Who did actually? What's up?
Anyway, that guy, they were having a meeting with Lucas, Spielberg.
Spielberg.
No, not Spielberg.
That's who
There's
says.
another, maybe it was the sequel to Raiders of the Lost
maybe
Ark?
one of the sequels. Okay.
Yeah, the one with the snakes. Was that
Oh, that
the
would have
sequel?
been the first one, yeah.
That was the first one? Okay,
Yeah, because
well,
he's like not. I think maybe snakes are in all of them because that's like the running
that
theme
could
that
be, yeah.
that he's afraid of snakes.
yeah, he's afraid of snakes. So,
Yeah.
so the bit was Spielberg in this meeting. They're saying, "How we can't fill a cave with snakes?" And Spielberg said in the meeting, "Why don't we do it the way Lieberman did it in Squirm?
Oh wow.
Just take an isolated thing and you light it from the side. That it's a sea of worms. You don't really, in your mind, you don't have to actually see the rest of it because it's this deep, and you're in that part of the room. You assume that you're seeing the rest of it." And I lined up the two shots. I went and took the movie Lawrence Kasdan.
Oh,
Okay.
That was he directed.
Maybe he
or
did maybe he was the
producer or
cinematographer
director.
or something. Yeah.
Anyway, and they're both lit. One's worms and one is snakes. It's exactly the same lighting, same frame, same
Wow.
everything. Yeah. It was an
He's
old
one of the writers. It's he did the screenplay. It says Lawrence Kasdan.
Oh, okay.
I'm cheating and looking at IMDb, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's
No, that's pretty wild. That
That's
your idea
great.
for the worms went on to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
yeah.
What is it? Because you talk about in your book, like you did a few horror movies, and then 20 years later, you're at festivals and stuff. What is it about horror movies that like stick with people and always find a new audience? Because a lot of movies from the same era, even some bigger movies, like people just forget over time.
Yeah. I know. I thought about that myself. It's sort of like a universal like, okay, you take a movie like Just Before Dawn, you can have 500 years from now If you're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the woods, it's going to look the same, right? So there's a universality of a lot of these movies, and then the universal basic fears. Hitchcock, he said the one thing that everybody has a nightmares about is that the brakes go out. Like you put your foot on the brake and it doesn't have any effect, and you're going down a hill. So his last movie, Family Plot, he did that, and everybody in the movie theater is stomping their foot down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so it's the same. You know, there's universal phobias and fears that people have, and so if it's going to tap into it in 1972, it's going to tap into it in 2002, and it just needs a new generation of people to watch it. That's why.
This is, you know, I'm not just a horror movie fan. I grew up watching all movies, but I like to watch Siskel and Ebert because I grew up with them. So I'll watch some of the old episodes on YouTube or whatever. And it is weird because like they'll be talking about like even movies are up for Oscars, and I was like, wow, I completely forget this movie. I don't think I ever remember, but I'll know like all these movies, like you said, from the 80s or 70s, all these horror movies that
that's
are
what
probably
I find.
much smaller movies, you know.
The weird thing is that from my perspective, I'm not famous, but I have a huge fan base, and the fan base that always hits me of how young like my kids' age group is the basic fan base now, not the people that saw Squirm back then in the movie theater or anything else. So that's weird, because that means, you know, nobody's going to, until somebody makes a better Worms get electrified. You know what I mean? Because it's so,
yeah.
There's no technology. There's nothing that dates it in looking at a rural. You could go down south today and you could see a Xerox plant, high level thing. And then you can see a farmhouse that looks just like this today,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and it's throughout rural South. And so it could have, you know, it's a funny thing that so many of these things I see on Netflix, they spend so much money and it takes place in the 70s, you know? Well,
Yep.
And I'm going like, now I made 3 movies that take place in the 70s, or 2 of them. Los Angeles and the Deep South, Squirm and Blue Sunshine. It's an authentic, like if you were to do those movies today in 35 millimeter, exactly what you're seeing on the screen, it would cost $50 million, because you'd have to get every car, every building, every, you know what I mean? You'd have to recreate LA of the 70s, where I did that then. But it wasn't recreating, it was just shooting it.
Yeah.
And it's funny how I think I know the reason, half the reason anyway, for the writers, once cell phones came in, screenwriting is like, just call the cell phone. So the horror guys go, well, I got an idea. They lose service. The battery goes down because you can't do it. You know, 911, the cops are there. It goes the end. It's like 10 minutes.
Yeah, we mentioned this on the show. It kind of ruins movies. It's either like you think, oh well, why doesn't this guy just call somebody, or they have to shoehorn some reason. Either they lose service,
some crazy cockamamie reason, like
they all
have to put our cell
when
phones into this
when you watch like a Ray Donovan, any of those kind of detective or whatever, they don't ring. They like, what is it? What is it? What do you want? And it's like 40 times through the show. Back then, you didn't have to do that. If somebody made a phone call, it was a big deal. They go into a phone booth or something. But most of the time, they can't make a call in a car. They can't make it anywhere but a phone booth. They go and drop dimes in. So I think that's one of the reasons, because it really, not only the practicality of, well, they're going to keep making phone calls, but how do you write a story where they can't just use their phone and all that? So when they did it originally, it's like, oh, I'm not getting a signal. I go, yeah, you're not getting a signal. Because if you did get a signal, it's going to say the end in like 5 minutes.
That's a good idea
And,
for a short film, though. It's like it's this big setup of a big slasher movie, and one of the characters just calls up 911, and the movie ends.
yeah, they go,
That would be
"Well,
classic.
I hope you get a signal." And I got a signal, and the credits start
And the
rolling.
credits roll,
No,
yeah.
I mean, you know Ray Romano, right? The
Yeah,
comic.
yeah.
Okay, so he used to do stand-up before he made it. I used to go to all these. I saw all these guys, young, like Seinfeld and Andy Kaufman. I used to love that
Oh,
shit.
nice.
And so I didn't know, in a small club, this guy Ray Romano, and I'll tell you when it was, because when what's it called, E.T., Spielberg's movie,
Okay.
when that came out, so it's 82 or 83 or something. Anyway, he says, that was just what you just said. He says, movies, every movie that you can name, if some tiny little thing happens differently, the movie would be over. He says, I'll give you an example. E.T. He says, E.T., of all the places on earth he's lost, he winds up in like Steven Spielberg's cousin's backyard in LA in the suburbs, right? With a little boy and bicycles and all that. He could have just as easily landed in the Bronx, right? So he does a bit. He's in the Bronx in the street. This little ET is lost. Two fat Italian guys come out of the Italian restaurant. He goes, "Hey, what the fuck is that green thing?" And the other guy goes, "I don't know. Shoot it. Kick it in the sewer. Boom. So where we going?" This is the end.
The end. Yep.
No. I learned a valuable lesson on writing. But you don't think about that. But I always think about that. Why don't they just? Well, if they just, you wouldn't have a movie. Did you see that movie, Pierce Brosnan, a horror movie recently?
Oh, the Heretic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm thinking he knew from the very beginning he wants to kill these girls. Just kill the girls. He winds up just killing the girls. Why do you need an hour and a half of bullshit to kill the girls? If he wanted to change them into zombies or just make them religious, that's one thing. But he intended to kill them. So just kill them. The end. Boom.
I've seen people
streamline.
Yeah, I've seen people in other countries say the same thing about Breaking Bad. They're like that show doesn't work in a country that has universal health care, because it's like the guy is
Wait a
good
minute.
point.
Now, wait
Yeah.
a minute. When I watched it, didn't work for me because his wife was a teacher. He was a teacher.
Oh,
He was a teacher. There is no place in this country where teachers don't get automatic. I looked into it. They all get health care. The first thing I thought of is, what are you talking about? No health coverage. You have health coverage, but they just said he didn't because it wouldn't work. He needed
Right.
nothing.
Yeah.
You want to give him some nice reason, but it's bullshit.
Yeah. Troy just retired from school last year. So.
Yep.
Who?
My brother here, Troy.
Retired from what?
From working at school. Yeah.
Yeah.
He worked
so
he worked at school here.
my healthcare is real good. So yeah.
Yeah, everywhere. I'm
Yeah.
telling you that I saw it the same way they did. I mean, it worked for me because I realized, well, they have to do that. They're lazy, but it's like, if people are questioning that, they're not going to get into the show anyway.
That's something I never even thought of with it. Yeah, but you're right.
They just make up. They're lazy. I mean, I see so much lazy writing that just, people do stuff because the plot calls for it, but nobody would ever say that in a million years. Nobody would do that in a million years. I'm not the audience for anything. I hate it.
Are you still like a movie fan or a TV fan? Like, what kind of stuff do you watch?
I never was. I was way more TV, way more of the certain shows that, I didn't like the I Love Lucy, I didn't like I love the Honeymooners. I love the Twilight Zone. And for me to be working with Rod Serling, boy, that was really
just amazing. Yeah.
I still don't believe that I had the balls to not just direct him, but to hang out and fuck around. Yeah, people say, "Oh, it's Rod Serling, and this is the Twilight Zone." But this guy, there wasn't a side gag. I mean, we used to do Three Stooges bits, you know. Yeah, yeah. You don't think of that when you think of Rod.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
really
no,
think a
I
very
would have
serious
never
guy.
guessed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, those are very, very fun chapter in the book about Rod Serling, and something that stood out to me. It's kind of a theme in the book is the power of editing, because like one of the early things that you're in a place where they're editing the movie Joe, and they completely changed the movie through the editing, and
Yeah.
that was also go on, sorry.
If anybody seen Joe, the original movie, the movie was called The Generation Gap. Canon Films. It was like at that time, it was the generation gap would be, it's like on Laughing, it was a pop phrase.
Yep.
To sell jeans. I think the Gap jeans started as the Generation Gap, the store, and then they changed it to the Gap. So it was just a corny name. So to call a movie that, it's like, and then aim it at a young generation, it's, you're already, it's so ick. There's the ick factor. It's got ick. Nobody's going to go see that. And so, like your parents, it's like Reader's Digest, and so they shot the movie. John Avildsen directed it. John Avildsen had done softcore porn before that. He was a cinematographer, and then he directed that. And they had a screening, and they fired him. It was like the worst audience reaction.
Oh no!
So they had to salvage the movie because at that point it was their attempt at going like kosher. They were doing like softcore Swedish import movies. And so they hired William Sachs, who was the editor, to come in and literally fix it, somehow fix this thing. So I had my first job working as an assistant to like the worst editing, just getting the bins and picking the shots for the editor, this woman. And I hear down the hall, I sounded like somebody down the hall saying, all liberals are queers, and the white guys can't get because the niggers this and niggers that. And I went, who the hell is that? And she goes, oh, no, that's a movie. And then I hear it over and over. So I took a walk over and I look in, and there's William Saxon. He's cutting this, and this guy is saying this stuff, and I'm cracking up, and he's laughing. And the more I laugh, the more he goes, wait until you hear this one. Now, we were the generation that's going to see this movie. And we think this guy is a riot. He's like a racist times 11. It was brilliant. So he said what he's doing is taking this movie and trying to make this guy, whose name was Peter Boyle, that was the actor, unknown, and
make him like the more of the lead of the movie
on this guy and change the name of the movie to Joe, because that was his character, Joe. Mm-hmm. The rest is history.
Yeah. It is funny when I was go on, sorry.
No, the movie made so much money that they went public off that movie.
It's funny because I had seen the movie Joe for the first time when I was an adult, and I heard a lot about it. And it was funny the first time I was watching it because like Joe doesn't show up for quite a bit of the movie. And so when I was reading the chapter in your book about it, I was like, oh, that's probably why. Because he was, they tried to expand him, make him more.
Yeah, as much as they could.
Story. Yeah.
No, and they made the poster, him with the gun and the American flag. And Peter Boyle himself, I actually met him a couple of years after that in LA. And he's a known, like, super left-wing, liberal, every cause, Yeah. And he played that shows he's a great actor. Yeah. Just the way Carol O'Connor was also a left-wing guy, and he played Archie Bunker, who I think he was playing a lot of Joe. But
yeah, definitely. definitely.
And it was I was hysterical.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think that's one of the best sitcoms. But go on.
you know, Billy Sachs did Incredible Melting Man.
Yeah, so William Sachs we had on the show, and I became friends with him after we had him on the show, and I used to chat with him all the time. Just a really nice guy. And so when I had him on the show, he talked about kind of doing the same thing for the a modern movie Leprechaun, where they made it and like it was no one liked it, and then he made it into a comedy through the editing. And I think he had a history of doing that. That was a big part of
Yeah,
his career.
he called himself a fixer. You know,
Yeah.
he's
Oh,
you
okay.
know, he died.
Yeah, yeah. So I talked to him all the time, and then for about the
Died like
last
2
year
years
before
ago.
he died, I just he wasn't replying, and I just thought I don't know, but then he passed away, which is really sad.
No,
But
I
really
actually
nice guy.
I know he bought my book, and I was waiting to hear a response, and maybe I'll still hear it. I mean, he did die, but you know, that doesn't mean he can't,
That's
you know,
very
beam,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
beam a
if you're out
review.
there, Bill, you can contact us.
Yeah, but you know what? When people beam from like heaven and shit, they don't say your book sucked. You know, you're in
Pretty
heaven.
great
Want to
if
get
you
kicked
did.
out?
Yeah.
Want to get kicked out by just putting down your
Point.
Facebook? No.
Yeah.
So it's really not going to mean that much to me.
Yeah.
Like, what can you say?
Yeah. But it's so I had him on, and then the guy who directed Leprechaun came on, and he really like trashed Bill, and Bill sent me even like just like actual like paperwork and stuff showing that the guy, anyway, but Bill was a great guy, and yeah, not only. So my question was, so he fixed all these movies, but I don't think people know that, so he didn't really get credit for a
Oh
lot of that
no.
stuff.
Well, the biggest. You ever hear of the guys who in the background don't get credit on screenplays and the kind of money they make? I try to get into. I'm a pretty good screenwriter, but there's more to it to get those kind of gigs because they are when they bring those people in. Think about it. They're going to be spending millions and millions of dollars on the movie, right? And then they cast Liza Minnelli, and it was written for a black, whatever the thing is. They got 1 week or 2 weeks to fix this thing, and they're going to shoot. If you can do that, back in the 90s, there were guys making $500,000 a week, like Robert Town, those guys, to go in and do that. That's where you want to do it. To me, I'd rather get like no credit, no Oscars, and make $500,000 a week in 90s money, which is like $1 million a week today.
Yeah.
How much a word? I don't know.
It's
But
interesting.
yeah, those guys, and they punch. They have guys come in and punch up jokes if it's a comedy.
Oh yeah.
And it's a craft, but not everybody can do it, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that if, as you said, like you would rather have the money than the credit, but I do think a lot of people would probably rather have the credit than the money.
Yeah, I know. It's funny that I say that kind of thing a lot, and then I say, yeah, but would you have said that before you had the credits?
Right.
And the money. You know what I mean? Like, I have enough money that, so money is not, if I do something, it's not going to be for the money.
Right.
And the credits, I won an Emmy. Want to see it? I got it.
Yeah, it'd be sweet.
Well, I have an Emmy. I do.
Yeah, it's right next to the cigar, from what I remember.
No, actually, it's on. Yeah, I think I got to get up. I got to get up on a chair to.
All right.
Oh, it's way up there.
Believe me, I have an Emmy, and it was for HBO. Sonny Liston, boxing.
Oh wow.
HBO, yeah. I've done documentaries. That But Seriously thing, that was huge budget. It was $1.5 million in '92 for a documentary.
Wow.
That's not chopped liver.
Yeah.
And I did one for Clark Gable, Tall, Dark, and Handsome for TNT with Liam Neeson as the host. Who knows that? Nobody. And let's see. Then I did But Seriously 2. We did a second one, which we shot in all the clubs. and that was both of those were for Showtime. And then the Sunny Listen thing was HBO. And I did a thing called Museum that was on PBS. And it's like I didn't, if anybody knows who I am, it's like they have no clue. I was just in Manchester in October, and they allowed, because they did a Jeff Lieberman weekend, so it wasn't just
Oh, wow.
movies. I said, well, I got these things digital. I did a thing with John Waters called Till Death Do Us Part, and I brought that, and I brought this But Seriously thing. They loved it. The Brits, it was on Channel 4 back then, on television, so they kind of knew about it. And it to me, if you can do a Q&A, I'd rather do a Q&A on something I've never done a Q&A on.
Yeah.
Right.
Those things than like the 60th Blue Sunshine thing.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
so,
it. It just makes me. I remember I saw I recorded it, but then the William Shatner people wouldn't let me post it online. But it was William Shatner. He did a Q&A for Twilight Zone. Actually, it was Twilight Zone Q&A, and I thought he came off so great because he was telling stories I don't think he had talked about a lot before. It's like the Wing of the Plane episode. And there's two, Twilight Zones, and it just made me think like he's probably sick of talking about Star Trek forever, and like he wasn't like the William Shatner character. He was like seemed like a real person telling these stories, and it was just it was fun to watch, and I recorded it at a convention. Yeah, and then I was gonna post it, and the convention told me that the William Shatner people like, no, you can't put that up.
it would be really cool.
Yeah.
Get William Shatner, because he's an actor,
Mm-hmm.
and have him do an interview as Captain, as that character. He doesn't have to wear the outfit, but just be that guy.
Yeah. One thing I want to ask about William Sachs too was I found it interesting when I had him on the show. He said The Incredible Melting Man, he made it as a comedy, but they edited it to make it more of a horror movie, which he was never happy with. And then he went on to be the Fixer movies. So I'd asked him, like, well, did you ever think about doing that for your own movie? Like putting out, the version that you wanted of The Incredible Melting Man. And he really didn't have an answer, which I thought was kind of funny that, he went on to fix these other movies, but his own movie was kind of,
well, it ain't easy to make a movie that works. And I thought that Rick Baker did that.
Yeah, the effects are great.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you could tell it's there's a lot of comedy, especially the very end when they kind of just shovel them up and throw them in the trash.
Yeah, I just never, look, I don't like Supernatural, and the closest, so I say, well, Squirm was Supernatural, but I was trying to make it as realistic as possible,
right. More science fiction.
This could never happen before.
Yeah.
But I just don't like. As soon as there's something happens in Supernatural, I'm like, yeah, okay, like it's not. I'm removed. Like if I see Linda Blair, it's one thing, and I told this to Linda Blair. It was like at one of these conventions, she was in the next table, and I just got to know her, and I said, that movie worked so well. I have a little daughter. I had a little daughter when I saw it. And when I kiss her goodnight, and if she turns around and says, your mother sucks, I would have that would be the scariest, my wife went to Catholic school all the way through. So to her, there's a devil. She was pounded, even though she knows there isn't, it was pounded into her head. To me, devil is like devil dogs, like the hostess. There's no devil, there's no hell, there's no fear. If somebody says, you could talk like that, but you're going to go to hell, they don't realize that if you don't think, it's like saying you're going to turn into a fairy dust. If you don't think something exists, how could I be scared of your threat? That's stupid. It was designed to scare you, not me. So anyway, when her head rotated, I cracked up because you guys are too young, but it was Paul Winchell had Jerry Mahoney and Knucklehead Smith, two puppets. and Knucklehead Smith, when he said something that he didn't understand, his head would revolve around. It scared the shit out of me. But I was 5 years old. I was 5 years old. When I see her head doing
That's all you could think
it's
of?
like, get the fuck out. But there's nothing scared from there on. And she's bouncing on the bed. And I'm thinking, is this a comedy? But my wife's like scared the shit out of her. Here's another thing. Now that we're on Devils, Satan's Little Helper. See that?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's a really fun movie.
Okay, so we're shooting the movie, and we got this guy with the Satan mask. You know, it's scary, it's funny, it's everything. It's killing people. We have a Jesus character, right? Because he puts on a Jesus outfit later. We're like halfway through shooting the movie, and then a scene comes up, and I never saw it because Anthony Pepe, who's a great makeup, special effects makeup guy, and he did that. He showed me the mask, but the mask was translucent, so you really couldn't get a sense. It takes on the face of the person underneath it when they put it on. So I never saw it until the night that we're going to shoot. He comes down the stairs with the robe and the hair. My AD, who's Irish Catholic and went to same thing as my wife who's Italian Catholic, he went to Catholic school. But I wasn't thinking. All of a sudden, he gets like, and I thought he was doing shtick. He wasn't. He gets white, and he says, I got to step outside. And he went outside to get air because this Jesus scared the shit out of him.
Oh, wow.
Right? And I'm going like, man, this is what I was thinking when I did the movie. It's like Jesus, the girl says Jesus is Satan in the movie because there's a rational reason why she says it in the script. But to me, I was trying to show from the little boy's perspective, there were all these superhero characters. That's what you're really telling the kid. We used to sit in a tree, Batman against, who would win in a fight, and he would do this, and he would hit, Spider-Man would do that, and then but Jesus would come in walking on water, and whatever Jesus does, he's another character to the. I try to show that to a kid. So God is Jesus, and the devil is the guy from the video game. And it's all one thing to a kid, which is pretty offensive to a lot of people. And not only don't I care, but I did it consciously. Until,
I'm with you on this, so yeah.
Yeah, but dig this. Walmart, a huge sale. They canceled it unless they changed the title of the movie.
Wow.
Next to it, it could be like lesbian girls on the planet. It doesn't matter. Anything with the devil, they wouldn't touch. And then when we were shooting in a semi-sophisticated part of Westchester, we didn't shoot on the island. That was all film magic. They, again, Satan's Little Helper, they hated the idea of it, that a little boy, and we had to change. So when we actually shot the movie, we said we changed the name of the movie, and we changed on the trucks and everything. It said The Little Helper, like the worst title ever, because we couldn't have Satan in the title. And then when they caught on to it, by the time we finished that, we wrapped out of that house, people on the street with placards, don't come back, go to hell.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. So I said, all right, I don't care, until it came to international sales. All of South America wouldn't touch the movie.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Because of all the Catholic areas. And although in Italy, they loved it. Loved it. But if you go to Rome, and the people I know, the biggest thing they hate, they were brainwashed when they were kids their whole life. They hate the Pope and hate the Vatican and everything. It's like, if it blew up, they would be applauding, right? So they love Satan's Little Helper. So I stirred the pot a little bit and had fun with it.
You could have done a sequel set in Easter with the Jesus character.
Yeah, no, well, he lives at the end, so I have some ideas to do that.
So I noticed that Joshua Annex, who plays Satan Man in the movie, that's his last film credit.
Oh wow.
What was he like
First
on?
and last. He was a mime. He wasn't an actor.
Oh, okay.
And not only that, I mean, he did a great job. And it was funny that I had too many things on my mind. So, you know, I wanted him to be the right height and the right, and
Said, what a
it was
story.
like, it was like a weird assignment. Like, how does this guy behave? I didn't know. So it was only when we was shooting the movie, that I said, okay, he's not going to talk. He doesn't talk. We knew that. So what's the gestures? And we made up all the gestures right then and there. You know, it goes, you know, and slaps him 5, and we're cracking up. Everybody, I know this works. You know something works when you've seen it right in front of you.
Yeah.
And so he did that through the whole movie. And then we're going to shoot in the fall. We had to do pickup shots that we waited for the real fall, because we shot the movie in July. And we were making fake fall, you know, with fake leaves. So we waited for the real fall to do the cemetery and all that. And this guy got really prissy, like, well, I have to go home to feed my cat. I can't be out on the island. He gave us, you know, like all of a sudden, and I'm thinking, yeah, he probably figures, and his agent figures, we have to say yes to everything because he's impregnated. He's Satan, and his little helper. And I'm thinking, these guys are not, isn't it obvious that nobody sees his face? Isn't it obvious that if I get somebody his height, put the same mask on, he doesn't know as I do, and I tell the guy the same, not only didn't I have to not get a guy, my AD, because he already saw the gesture, so I didn't have to tell him anything. There's 3 big, you know, when he's the woman, he rings the doorbell and this old lady comes to walk her.
Yeah.
And that's a different guy. That's my AD.
Oh man.
I told him, look at your watch. I gave him all the shtick from behind the camera, and he's just doing it. You would never, if I didn't tell you that, there's no way you would know it. This guy didn't realize that. There was the 2 other people I had play the Satan Man after that, and he just blew, you know, it's stupid.
Yeah. Made to feed his cat. So.
Hope it was worth it then.
Well, we only had to kill 1 cat in that movie, I'll tell you that much. You saw the
Real cat?
Did you see the cat?
Yeah, yeah.
And Say's Little Helper, and he rides Boo with it?
Oh.
Yeah. So we only had to kill 1 because it had, we got 9 takes. Well,
We need the drum roll, the rim shot.
you know how many people, I was at Tribeca, and I came out and people like, you know, they really dug the movie, but I knew in the Q&A, they're going to say, you know, animal rights are in New York City. Do you really think I'm going to take a fucking real cat and slam it against the wall and write? But people, so I said that. I said, we only had to kill 1. I said, because we got 9 takes. It was like, I went, okay, 1,001. And then they got it. It was a FAO Schwartz stuffed black cat.
Nice.
Toy with one of those pouches, you know, the blood pouch in your hand. So when you hit it, the thing was open and you hit the blood patch right against the wall, and the scraping sound was put in later to be the bones. And the real cat, he picks up a real cat. So it's 2 shots. He picks up the real cat, yeah, and then I just reversed it and had him swing around with the FAA Schwartz thing, and then cut to the wall where the hand goes in and crunches. So you put those 3 shots together, and you got the whole scene.
Yeah.
And we knew it, right? You know, it's my 5th film, so I know exactly where to put the camera and exactly what the effects can have. And now in the world of video, you can actually see it on the screen at the time, and people gasped. I mean, the video village, they're looking at the screen and they go, ah! Knowing that's the real cat. The woman left already with the real cat. and they still gas. So it's got to work in the movie, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yep.
In your book, you talk about, you make Satan's Little Helper after, doing your first like festivals or conventions, and so you get back in and make it a horror film. What was the experience like getting back into making a horror movie?
Well, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to like try to pick up where I left off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, okay, what would that guy, the guy that was, the last one was 20, just before dawn, I was 32. So that was the third one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't consider Remote Control a horror movie, but that was I was 37 or 38. Anyway, so I was thinking, if I can tap into when I'm 10, which is I can do that right now. I see.
Oh, look at that! His thumb's disappearing. Yeah.
And so I could certainly tap into who I was when I made that movie. And I just said, what would that guy do? And so basically it was the same. I mean, I'm going by the reviews. They pretty much said what I'm saying, but I did that intentionally to try to be that subversive, fuck you. That's the way I was. When I was broke, I was that way. When I had money, look at me the wrong way and go fuck yourself. And I could be out ridiculous money. I can't help it. And so I'm still that guy. So I just said, well, that guy today, what would he do? It's like, well, just say fuck you to everybody, see what happens. And I didn't intentionally pick one. You can't offend everybody. Like Ricky Nelson says, you can't please everyone. I see you can't offend everybody, but you can try.
Yep.
Right.
Give it a shot.
90 minutes or 100 minutes. So I pretty much did.
Yeah. 100%. So just before dawn, how hard was like shooting like out in the woods, up in the mountains?
Well, in that terrain, we were really there. I mean, there's nothing phony about that.
Yeah.
And so it was two things. One, the access road was pretty far from where we were actually shooting. So you had to go like a caravan. It would take like a half hour to get to where we were shooting. But the good news is that I could shoot in any direction. You're not going to see trucks and all that. The trucks are all up on the road. The bad news about that is if you got to go to the bathroom, you have to. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, guys, just pee in the woods and the trees and everything. But the women would go in by the time they get back. It's one thing if it's a makeup girl, but if it's Debbie Benson or something, I have to hold up the shooting. So I got the megaphone and I explained we can't do the movie if everybody's going to go to the honey wag. They call it a honey wag.
Yeah.
And I said, I hereby declare for the shooting of this movie, pee where you be. So that goes for any sex or anything. Guys, I don't have to tell them, they'll take it down. If I'm saying that, they'll go off. I can't tell the women to do that, but at least it's going to cut down the pee. Drinking coffee all day. So that was a good move on my part. And the other thing was that if you're going to get a movie, like I wanted to look like Deliverance, the way that was shot, in order to get the audience to feel that they're really in the woods, if you're close, you could be in Central Park, you can be in somebody's backyard. You have to get way back and then see the principles in that context. So you have to, in order to do that in a place where there's ravines that go down hundreds of feet and waterfalls, you got to be on the other side. How do you get to the actors? So sometimes there was like the space between it, you could leap across and get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
If you went down between it, you'd be dead. And as it turned out, I'm going like heights. I'm not a big friend of heights. I'm not crazy, but it's like that's serious shit.
Yeah.
And then I realized, and then the cameraman, he had the camera, Arriflex, $250,000, 35 millimeter camera on the sticks, on his shoulder with cowboy boots, he jumps across. I go, shit, man, I can't, I'm the leader. I can't, how am I going to do this? I'm going to do it we had no monitors or anything. It's like, action. So I said to myself, you can go back with your fears after you wrap the movie, but you can't have them now. And I just switched my brain and jumped across these things like it was nothing. If you asked me to do it now, I would not go near doing it. But I just knew it's either that or you can't make the movie. But that's why it looks so good.
Yeah, definitely.
We always had something in the foreground that put in the context that was real. We had stunt people, but the audience was used to these long shots. So when you see a stunt, you can't see if it's a stunt person. You can't tell it's not the real actor, because we did that throughout the whole movie, and it gave it the real sense of the critics would say, well, the deep woods, they played a character in the movie. Ever hear that? They always say the environment. One of the characters. Get out of here! It's not one of the characters. It's the woods where they went into. But I know what they mean.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of heights myself. So even just walking across the rope ladder, I'm like, I don't think I want to do that.
Well, the rope ladder, we had a real low rope ladder that went over a real ravine, and there was real stunt people, not the actors.
Okay.
But when you see the actors close, do you know what was the rope was about a foot or two off the ground.
Oh, okay.
But if you shoot this angle, if I found a matching stone thing, put the camera here and shoot across them, and you spread the rope to the background, and you see trees back there, and you hear the waterfall. There's no way that you're going to say, "Oh, now I'm on the ground," and not. That's filmmaking, So,
yeah.
So they were all, doing this shit, but they were not in danger or anything.
Joe Mazzella, how long was George Kennedy and Mike Kellen on the shoot for? Kennedy was great.
Well, George was on longer than Mike, and they knew each other. The funniest thing is when Mike showed up, the two of them were playing like gin rummy. They took a box and an apple, and they had a card game going all the time. And they were real New Yorkers. There was, in fact, Mike Kellen, he scheduled that movie. He had to go back to New York to shoot a movie that he was in with Burt Reynolds at the same exact time. Oh, wow. So he went back and forth twice. And I told him, hey, if you're going to go to New York, bring back the New York Post, some bagels, and he I forgot about it. And we're shooting, and we're there, and I see Mike Kellen in his outfit. He came, and he's got the bag, the bagels, and the Post. He brought it all the way from New York.
Well, that was good enough. Yeah.
But they were, George was a movie star, it's like,
yeah.
And I'm like, this kid, it's like, I didn't, I'm trying to direct him, and he's George Kennedy. He's like, try to direct John Wayne. In every movie, John Wayne is, you put a cowboy hat on, he's a cowboy. You put a police hat, he's the chief of police. But he's still, wow, what are you going to, he's the same. That's what George, but I try to direct him, which is a waste of time. I go, that's good, George. He goes, I say, but when you do this, just adjustments that you give any actor, and he'd go, and he'd listen intently and go, super. Okay, got it. He would do it exactly the same, like uncanny that, you could do it like a carbon copy of the last, and he doesn't realize because that's all. And I go, okay, but, oh, super, okay. And I gave up. I just said, friend, that's what we're going to get. Because he's not changing it.
Yeah.
And And he wouldn't ride a horse either.
Oh, really?
All
Had
those
he
cowboys, he was
had he
in like
ridden one before? Do you know?
he could ride like crazy, but the
Yeah.
problem was I didn't know this, but it was in his contract that we can't film him getting on or off a
Oh,
horse.
okay.
And it was like, gee, that's weird. So I told my AD, I said, listen, you tell me when it came that George got to get on a horse. I said, let me know because I got to see. I have to see it for myself. I'm not going to film him. And they had a work light. They had the Teamsters, and the work light was far away, so nobody could see it. And so we sneak up and go and look through the woods. And there's two guys grab George, one by each leg, and throw his stomach onto the saddle. And the horse is going, he couldn't get on. And it's going around in circles. And then once he's sitting up, he's like a champ. And goes, and he stayed on the fucking horse until he never got off the horse because he can't.
Mhm.
He got off when they helped him off.
Yeah.
So if it was today, somebody with a cell phone would have shot that.
Yeah, he'd be very upset. But where was that shot? Like, what mountains?
It's well, it was Mount Rainier, I guess. It's the Cascade Mountains, so it was outside of Salem. It's called the Silver Falls National Park, and we'd go back to Salem to the hotel every night.
Mhm.
So Mount St. Helens went off right at that, 1980, and we got to the airport to scout locations from Los Angeles, and at LAX it said flight canceled, volcano, and I thought it's like it's not April 1st, it's like April Fool volcano,
Yeah.
and it turned out it was true, and we had to wait a week before we could go up there,
Oh, wow.
and it was all covered in ash, like it looked like a snowstorm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Was there any like actual like hill people around when you're filming?
Maybe the forest ranger. There was a forest ranger, a real forest ranger. They had a forest thing, and I didn't see any people living. I don't know if you could live in a national park.
Oh, yeah, it's in the park.
Legally,
Right.
I mean, even that church, we built the church. It
Mhm.
wasn't there.
Yeah.
I got to do, in the cowboy movies where they're going out west and, the wagon train, and then they go and they're going to make the town, and the priest says, and we shall build the church here. And they put a stake down, and then they do a montage. They're building the thing. I got to do that. I said, okay, everybody, because we put the church wherever I fucking say it's going to be, right? I'm the director. And I did this whole bit where I went out and I'm like feeling the vibrations and the thing. And I wish, they didn't do these, the making up. But
Yeah.
we shall build a church here. And sure enough, we built that we left it to the Boy Scouts, but it was, yeah.
Yeah. Because my friend Annabelle, who's not here tonight, we were in Hunter Mountain once in New York near Woodstock, and the hotel we got in like on the website, like, oh, it's around the indigenous people, and we didn't think much of it. But when we were driving in there, it was like people like you see in these kind of movies where it was like, I mean, they looked like they possibly were inbred, and they were just all like sitting around. And we'd wave to them and say hi, and none of them would say anything or like wave and so we ended up.
I saw a lot of those kind of mountain type people when not in the mountains, but when I shot Squirm, we were really in a rural South. I mean, you see the history of the South just in where we were, and those people were there. Big time. In fact, I used a lot of locals. But that guy Willie Grimes, the guy's father with the face, and he was a local drunk. He wasn't an actor. I just loved his face, and he was like 12 o'clock. He was totally blitzed and leaning up against the pole, and he's like this, just watching the casting thing is like the biggest commotion they've had in a long time. And I said, get that guy. And he says, the guy says, he's not an actor, he's just a local. I said, I don't care. I love that face
He's
with
got
the
the look.
nose, from drinking. And he drank Southern Comfort. All we had to do is buy a lot of Southern Comfort. And he was blitzed. And also, I give myself credit for one thing on Squirm, is that I can't write Southern dialect. I could write a New Yorker's bullshit accents, or what I see on television, like the Beverly Hills, just bullshit.
The cement pond. Yeah.
But I did know enough to be able to get unknown, untrained actors to say what I wanted them to. Instead of going by my script, they can't do that. If they wanted to, they're not trained. I said, yeah, but each thing that they're saying makes a certain point that a human could put in their own, like a thunderstorm when they were a kid. So I just would say to them, give them the situation, and I'd go like this, and Joe Mangine, the cameraman, would roll without them knowing, because they're gonna, if you're gonna say action, they're gonna freak out,
Yeah.
And I got them to reminisce or talk natural stuff. That your son, here's a situation, your son took the train, took your truck without telling you. He goes, did he? You know what I mean? Like, he's talking to me as he's looking at the guy, and I'm going to roll it, And then there's all those isms that they used. The great thing about it is it says written by Jeff Lieberman, like I wrote that dialogue. But then, for years I said, that's kind of not fair. I wrote all Scardino's dialogue and all that, but I didn't. All these things that made it authentic. It's because of the way they said it, the locals and everything. And then I realized, well, you should give yourself credit, because I knew enough not to have them try to do that and have them do it their own way. So I'm okay with that credit.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy says, I remember one storm, I was knee high to a duck. There's no way I'm going to write this. And it's perfect.
Yeah.
And that one turkey gobbler didn't have a feather off on it. And I was like, this is fucking great. Because you think you're sitting there listening to these guys talking about the storm. And I shot it. And the other one was, Willie. That guy, his name was Carl Dagan something. But his, Willie Grimes in the movie, the father, he says, I told you not to borrow the loan of that truck to nobody, no how, no way. Borrow the loan of a truck, but you know exactly what he means, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then he says, you're going to be digging deep to replace those worms, right down to your toenails. Now, if you think about it, your toenails are on ground level. So you're not digging at all. But it sounded like, boy, that's really fucking deep. Down to that's what I'm talking about. And it's like, this is great. I know what he means. I would never, ever say it the way he's saying it.
Yeah.
And I knew enough to not be this wise ass from New York, try to make up what they would say, y'all. So,
Yeah.
It was cool.
John Hunsaker, I'm not sure how you say his last name, who played the Mountain Twins in Just Before Dawn. Where did you find him?
He came in, this casting people. Who came in before that? The guy that was Jaws in the James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, this is exactly what I don't want to do. Like those.
Richard Kyle, is that his name?
Yeah,
Neal,
and then I think that guy Berryman too. I didn't even want to. see
Michael
him.
Berryman, yeah.
It's like people don't realize. You stay away from cliche. You stay away from he's playing that character again. It's like, isn't it better to see somebody you never saw before and make it more realistic and naturalistic? So John Hunsaker, and it's interesting. He was like 550 pounds. He's huge, right?
Oh, wow.
When I got to know him, smart guy and very funny. He said he used to be, and he was tall, but he said, I used to be like really thin and athletic. Really? You can't even picture it. And he says, yeah. And then I went to Haight-Ashbury during the the 60s. He said, and all I did was acid, acid, acid. And all I ate was Twinkies
Oh,
for like
man.
2 years. Twinkies. He was addicted to Twinkies to the point that they
Wow.
used to call him Twinkie. And guess what? From then on, we all called him Twinkie on the
Yeah.
set. And Twinkie husband. But think about eating Twinkies. It has, if you read the contents, you should like be radioactive within,
Oh,
6 months and then die. And that's how he put on, not only did he put on all that weight, but it's Twinkie weight. It's like,
yeah.
like if
Whipped
Arnold
lard and
Schwarzenegger got
sugar, you know?
down.
Yeah, I think Twinkies don't even rot. Like they found them in
Oh,
like
I don't think they do.
in buildings that are like 30 years old and they're still exactly the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe
yeah.
he'll
And you know what? They they have atomic half-life of about 10,000 years. But the Twinkies just came, somebody bought Hostess and brought back Twinkies, Devil Dogs, and the cupcakes, and they're selling like crazy through baby boomers, because that was our lunch in school all through public school.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll have a Twinkie and my mother's thinking, now you're going to spend this money on just the smell of the cooked food in the school make you barf. You go right to the Twinkie and the
absolutely.
thing. And then I don't remember eating one healthy meal all through public school.
So I won't go everything in the book, but I would recommend people to read it. I really enjoyed it a lot. But one thing I want to ask is, you have a lot of like projects that don't materialize with like John Lennon and Robert De Niro.
Wow.
And how was that to deal with? Was that just something that you learned to deal with working with movies, that sometimes these things just won't happen, or were they harder to deal with when you were younger?
I think what I learned over the time is that it's a fucking miracle when they do happen.
Fair enough.
And so fortunately, at least in if I use this word, you got to cut it out, because there's probably up there in the at least top 5 sickening words that I hear with this current is journey. Everything's a fucking journey. I was about to say in my journey, and I went, you idiot, you're going to be one of the journey people? Where are you going with the journey? Everything's a fucking journey. Oh, my cancer journey. At least it makes sense. You say, what's your journey? To die. Like,
my dying journey?
Yeah, that's kind of the final destination.
I'm on a journey and terrible things, but I'm going to go to Aqaba or the North Pole. But just a journey? Like sailing? Where you going? I'm going sailing. But where you going? Sailing. So anyway, on my journey. I didn't even know what I was talking about.
I forget what I did ask you now. It's
disappointment.
Oh, yeah, about things not materializing.
Yeah. Well, along the way on my journey, I have learned that you just be honest and stuff, and there's so many stars. There's a lot of luck involved. Things have to happen to click. Like Squirm. I wrote Squirm totally on spec. I was working at Janus Films, write this thing. I couldn't type or anything. I get a phone call as soon as my wife typed up the script. I get a phone call from George Manassi, who was the producer on a movie called Who Killed Mary What's Her Name. That was my first experience on the actual movie. I was associate producer. I was did the locations and everything. That's in the book with the Italian guys, shooting The Godfather at the same time. And I got to know him because I was really ghostwriting the script while they was shooting the movie. Red buttons. I was changing the dialogue. So I was like a disguised writer, ghostwriter. So he calls me up out of the blue and says, do you know anybody that has a horror movie script? And I said, well, I'm actually just finished this thing. And I told him what it was. He says, well, there's these guys that I just did a movie with, the Fatty Arbuckle movie called with Raquel Welch, The Wild Party. So these guys produced The Wild Party, and George was the line producer, and he said that they want to do a horror movie and get it to Cannes Film Festival because Ivan Reitman, who I don't know if you know Ivan Reitman, he went on did Ghostbusters and all that stuff, but he did produced a movie with Cronenberg, Shivers, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
And so they knew him. And I remember Ivan being in the office there, and they said they want to do what he did because he went to Cannes and got all the money. It's like if you could do a low budget movie at that time, and it's decent. There was a big market for it. And that's what they want to do. But there was at a time, everything fell. I had the first draft, they read it, boom, I'm in there. 10 minutes late. I mean, I said, boy, this is easy. Finance film, 35 millimeters, shoot 6 weeks. And I said, boy, no big deal. Well, guess what? It doesn't work that way. But I did find out that I'm a good writer, because it's one thing I don't know. I tell people, how you find out if people buy your shit. Otherwise, everybody, So you ask your friend, gee, that's really good, Well, give me 50 grand. Get the fuck out. If somebody actually says, well, I could buy a building or use that money to do your film, then you're in the big leagues. Everything else is caca. And fortunately, if nobody, just say nobody bought this, people read the script and said, this sucks. How many times would I actually do that before I go do something else?
Right.
Not many. And so when people reward you for I'm not going to say art. Can you do your art on your journey?
The art journey.
On my art journey, during my art journey, people say you're a good writer. And so, how I found out I could write? I was in the School of Visual Arts, just ducking the draft, getting out of the Vietnam War. You had to be a 2S. Mm-hmm. And I went into the film program because I was an artist. I had nothing to do with film. And I got this guy, Ernie Pintoff, who took over the writing class. And he had won an Academy Award. He did a short called The Critic with Mel Brooks. Oh. And he was a funny guy, but he's like, he didn't know how to teach writing. He needed the bread. And so we had this assignment, and then he's going through the papers, and he goes, you're a really good writer. And he looks out, we had like at least 20 kids in the School of Visual Arts class. And I turned around to see who he was talking about. It's like saying, you're a really good pole vaulter to me. Oh, who was he talking about? It can't be me. And it was me. I had no idea. And he singled me out. And then when the semester was over, he called me in to write with him. And we wrote Blade. Why? Because he was the one that did Bullet and made a ton of money. It's like he's living, in the high life.
Let's try this again. Yeah.
And Warner Brothers, and I went, wow, you can make a lot of money. And he thinks I could write like better than him. And that's how I became a ghostwriter. Then he went and directed Who Killed Mary What's Her Name with Red Button, Sylvia Miles, Sam Waterston, Conrad Bain, all New York actors. And so anyway, that's how, Squirm came about, and it looked easy to me. And making the movie was very hard, but getting the deal was unusually easy for somebody who really.
Something in your book too you talk about a lot is like marketing, like come up with like a phrase for Squirm, all these things, and Tommy, which is really interesting. What advice would you give someone today how to market your movie, because it's probably easier today to make a movie. You know, you don't need like $1 million, but it's also harder to stand out since there's so many things.
Well, that's a whole other can of worms, because when you say it's easy to movie, people run around, they do movies for $5,000. I mean, Satan's Little Helper to me was an extremely low budget movie, and it was about 800,000.
Uh-huh.
I mean, $5,000 might buy you the lunch for the crew for one day,
Uh-huh.
and that's at an ultra low budget. So, yeah, you know, you run around with your cell phone. But the thing is, I'm always so surprised that all these people that do these things, that GoFundMe and Indiegogo, whatever the fuck it is, give me money, like it should be givememoney.com. That's all it is. You know, you're not support. Oh, we want your support. Well, you say, yeah, go, go, go. No, we don't want that kind of support. We want you to write out a check. Why don't you just say, I want your money? Support this, right? And so, why is it that they go, well, we're going to do a 80s style? It's all derivative of shit they've seen. There's nothing fucking original. It's like, I got a great idea, a zombie movie, but it takes place in my grandmother's house. You know, you don't need another zombie movie. You don't need, just because you see these things, everybody has seen it. How come it doesn't occur to you, do something else? Do something that wasn't there. You know, Tarantino said this way better than I am, and he has a lot more credibility. But is that what you, as an audience, you want to see another zombie movie? No, you don't. You want to see another clown or whatever the fuck it is. That's what they do with these low budget movies. You'd think they would be like David Lynch, you know, just, you know, Eraserhead. That came out of, I didn't like it, but that came out of like Mars, right? And that's why he got so much attention. But it's not just a question of doing something that comes out of Mars. It has to be something that is artistic and draws people in. But the last thing you should do, like, make a list of all the things that you've seen and everything, and then throw it away, and then take a blank page. And that's what you should do. If you can't do that, then, you know, become an accountant or something. But you have to be able to do that. You have to, you know, when I do these things, people say, where did you get the idea? I don't know, but I know that I'm not thinking of ideas what other people did. And then I loved it. You know, this guy is tremendous. This what's his name that won the Oscar?
No, this year.
Huh?
Was it this year? Oh, this year? He won the Oscar this year?
Yeah.
Well, I forget. I can't remember what movie won.
I'm not sure either.
What?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure who did.
Come on, you guys got to fucking film.
I know.
Yes. I'm an old senile guy. I'm not supposed to remember my name. You know, I got an excuse on my journey, but you don't. Sean something.
I'm not sure. I'll look it up.
Honora?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've not seen the movie.
No? Well, when I saw that movie, I get all the DGA movies at the beginning, you know, and I'm reading the breakdown, and I didn't know his work. So I'm like, yeah.
Sean Baker.
What?
Sean Baker.
Yeah, Sean Baker. I didn't know his work or anything, so I'm going like, yeah, hooker thing. I'm watching this movie. I went, dum, dum, dum. This guy's a major fucking talent. Major. I mean, it hit me. I said, this is what I was talking about. Do something. His approach, the way he blocked, everything about that, the way that thing is shot, the way he used improvisation, everything about it. I went, this is fucking what I do like about when I see something like that. When I have no middle ground, you know what I mean? That's why I say I hate everything. I don't hate everything, but I'm always waiting for that. And it was so exciting. And I said to myself, is it possible that people will actually see what I see? And I was so amazed, because when you win the Best Director in the DGA, 9 out of 10 times you're going to win an Oscar. Did you know that? because
I
the
didn't know.
people in the Academy go, well, they should know what good directing is.
They're
As soon as
directors.
you won that, I went, oh, so they actually
Kind of makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
actually saw what I saw, and it's and then I went back and I saw Tangerine.
Yeah.
You see that? Which he
No,
did shoot with
I
cell
know the
phones. He
movie.
shot it with 4 cell phones.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
how come, like he's not doing, there's nothing about Tangerine that's similar to anything I've ever seen. He's not doing, oh, this is an homage to the 80s. This is, they shouldn't be doing, even at that low budget, they should be doing something else. I used to write with this guy, and we said that there's so much bad scripts out there because you can't outlaw big pens. Big pens, you can't. Anybody could write, right? But there was a barrier. If you want to make a movie, the cheapest movie back in say the 70s, 300,000. Okay, that's 300,000 today is almost $3 million in today's money.
Right.
You had to buy 35 millimeter, develop and print, work print, sound, mag sound, all the elements that went into it, whether you're shooting the phone book, it doesn't matter, right? And then actors, and then expensive camera equipment, huge lights. I don't care what it is. That's how much. So that was the barrier. At that time, you could buy a building for 300,000. So go, well, I can do Squirm, or I could buy that building across from Radio City. That's the barrier that 99% of people couldn't get over. Right? It stopped right at the writing thing. Unfortunately, I was able to do it, but today there is no barrier. There's no filter. It's a complete free-for-all. Who can't? I've made 27 movies. Yeah, but I work at Costco. Yeah, well, maybe you should just try to advance yourself at Costco and become the manager of the store. Make up your mind, because the public is telling you, who cares? Your friends are going, wow, you won the Grace L. Ferguson Award. But that's because of the internet and all that. But when I see something like this guy's film, the Tangerine he did for no money,
Yes,
fucking
look it up.
brilliant.
It says 100,000 budget.
100,000. Brilliant.
I'm going
Brilliant.
to have to start
Non-actors.
watching this guy's movies. I've never seen one of his movies.
Oh man, I went and here's another expression that I swore I would never use. I'm going to get them all out there. I did a deep dive. A
Nice.
deep
All right.
dive.
I'll be deep
Everything
diving.
is-
That's my
You do a
journey
deep
now.
dive, and if you do a deep dive on your journey, oh man,
Then you got it made. Yep.
yeah. In fact, you could do a movie where a guy's doing a deep dive, and that is his journey.
All right.
I actually have seen one of it. I saw Red Rocket,
Oh, okay.
which is a good movie.
I didn't realize the guy was a lot older than I thought,
Yeah.
in his 50s. So he's been around. But, I used to think like my idol back when I was starting, I was Brian De Palma. It's like there was everybody else doing these things, and this guy was an original, even though the critics all said, well, you're ripping off Hitchcock. He's not. He did it, you could say, well, the Rolling Stones, I used to say the Rolling Stones, well, they're ripping off Muddy Waters, but they're not. They're doing white British guys trying as hard as they could to do the blues, and it came out sounding like the Rolling Stones. They weren't trying to sound like Woody. They idolized this guy. So it's the same thing with De Palma. I mean, I always knew, just like Tarantino today, 5 minutes into the movie, you know who directed it. That's Stanley Kubrick used to be like that. As soon as you see the movie, Woody Allen, they have you hear singers, a certain voice, and the voice in a writer, I know his voice. They say that about my shit. It's his voice. And there's very few filmmakers. Scorsese, as good as he is at what he does, he doesn't have a voice. I wouldn't know. He's a ultra confident, competent. When I saw the Bob Dylan movie, which I really liked,
Yeah, I liked it too.
it was 100% competently done in every way, but it wasn't Sean. What's his name? You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
wasn't. It's a different thing. It's a
well-made
It
movie.
was conventional. It was a really perfectly done conventional movie, which I'm not knocking. I'm not saying I could do it, but I look for, even John Waters, who I know. If you look at his films, he's John Waters. You don't have to like it, but
What's his own genre of movie?
enough people did like it for him to keep making them.
Mhm.
And there was nothing even similar to what he did.
True.
And that's what, just because I say these things, people can't say, gee, that's good advice. The chances are you can't do it, because if everybody could do it, there'd be no way to make a living at it. It's like if every little girl could be a ballerina, who's going to pay? It's like everybody in the audience is ballerinas. They don't want to see you. And so it is a very particular thing combined with a lot of luck. And like Eli Roth, I told him when he was doing horror movies early on, I said, you are so fucking funny. He's a funny guy.
Mhm.
You should just be, instead of being funny in the horror movies, you should actually make
a comedy.
a comedy. He still hasn't, but
Yeah.
he's just funny. And but
Have you
anyway,
seen Thanksgiving? I thought that was
no, I
I know
don't.
it's probably his best movie.
I don't go see horror movies.
Mhm.
Most of the time, the people I talk to know a lot more than I do. And
So, what kind of movies do you said you saw Aurora, but you said you saw that, I think, because you got you got it in the mail or whatever. But what kind of movies do you go see?
in the theater,
Yeah.
none.
No.
Yeah, the last movie I saw in the theater was probably Oppenheimer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And because I wanted to see it on the big screen, and I thought it was fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I agree.
And I thought he's a great filmmaker. I mean, if you knock him, I always say, oh yeah, try to do what he, I don't care how much money. The guy's a genius. And that movie, to take a subject that is so intellectual and so abstract and actually make a thrilling movie and like a narrative that goes straight ahead and educates you along the way in the necessary dialogue. You know how hard that is to do, writing and pulling that off? I mean, it was just incredible. To me, it was like The Godfather.
I agree, and I thought it was really great that it made so much money, and it's not that I'm worried about a movie making money, but it was nice that a smart movie that people went and saw it.
I 100% agree with you that it was like it won every award. That's exactly what it should be. You watch it 20 years from now, it's going to be among the classic great.
Oh yeah,
great movies.
Because it used to be a blockbuster didn't necessarily mean it was also like a bad movie, but it does seem like in the last couple decades, like usually the big blockbustery movies aren't necessarily good movies. Like they make a lot of money, but they're not The Godfather or something. They're just kind of a dumb movie. But this is like a big movie that was also a good, a greatly made movie.
In spite of the fact that it made $1 billion, it actually is really, really good. I mean, but here's the knock, because I told this, I don't know these people, I don't know Marty Scorsese, but if I go to enough things, the people are at the same events over the years and all, so I see him because he's a close friend of mine anyway. So I see him occasionally at these things. The last time I said, you can't, whatever that movie he did with the Indians.
Oh yeah, what is that called? I went to see it at the theater.
I said, was it 4 hours long?
Yeah.
I said, I said, you have no respect for people our age. He's older, pretty much older than me. I said, could you sit there for 4 hours? It's like, I have to watch it at home. I get the DGA things and I hit pause, go take a leak, come back, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to sit in the movie theater. Maybe these young people like forget about it. So you're an ageist. You're anti ARP.
Uh-huh.
He's cracking up, but it's true. If you want to make a movie 4 hours long, don't expect people over 60 to go and see it when they can see it at home and flush away.
Yeah. It's funny after Oppenheimer, because I listened to a lot of audiobooks. That's how I said I read your book. I listened to the audiobook because I walk a lot, so I listen to audiobooks. And so I was like, oh, the Oppenheimer is based on a book, and the book's like super super long, which is fine, whatever. But it is so dry. So it did actually give me a bigger appreciation for the movie, like you were saying. Like they took this source material that's very dry, almost like you're like trying to take a class about this guy or something, and
like a textbook about
and condensed
Oppenheimer.
it into like a very interesting, well-made movie.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I did too. So I'm glad you said that. So I'd have to ask this: A Never-Ending Story 3. Do you have any memory of Melody Kay, who was a young actress on the movie?
Of who?
Melody Kay. She was a young
Oh
actress.
yeah.
Oh,
She
cool!
was,
Because she's a friend of ours that she had retired from acting, had just come back last year. We had the first interview with her on the show, and she's normally in the chat. She's really cool. So I was hoping you remembered her.
yeah, I remember her. She was, the girl.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't make that movie. I wrote it. I
yeah,
wrote
yeah.
the screenplay. So I was on the location basically because you have to, up in Vancouver. I didn't cast. I had nothing to do with the casting. And I remember, did I have it in the script that she played the guitar? How would I know that she played the guitar? I had nothing to do with the casting, but I wrote it. I just kind of remember that Peter McDonald said that the girl could play the guitar. So put that in the script. That's what I had to do, like adjustments up in Canada. So I remember her sitting on the bed and it made a nice little character. She's made up some cornball song. But like I said, when you're not directing a movie, I was just fulfilling my hanging out. And here's a funny story. If you could get Jack Black to watch your
Yeah.
podcast, there's a lot of money in it for you. Here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
Jack Black was in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay. I know he hates it. He said he doesn't want to talk about. Same with I Was a Work for Hire. You take a thing that was a German big hit that kids grew up with, and you're going to do a third one and try to make it like Home Alone. That's what they told me.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they hired me. They wanted an American, not a German, and to punch it, and to make it happen in America, not Fantasia and all that.
Yeah.
And I knew, big mistake. Big mistake. The core audience for this movie are going to tell their kids now, oh, you're going to see the Never-Ending Story. And they're going to go, this sucks. It's not the Never-Ending Story. And I knew it wasn't. But it's the most money I ever made because it was a very big movie. And it was the only script. Nobody came in and rewrote or anything. It was my script. And Jack played the bad guy lead, the Nasties. I made up this thing called the Nasties. And I hit it off with him, hanging around, and we go out to local restaurants, have a beer and hamburgers and shit. And he was thin. If you see the movie, he has a crew cut and he's thin.
Oh, okay.
And he was like 22 when he's in high school. I mean, I said that I said in the script, or I said to the director, these are guys that got left back, but I didn't mean one of the guys was actually 30 years old, had a kid.
He's really been
30 years old. I go, gee, you don't look a minute over 29, like you're supposed to believe you're in high school. But anyway, like I said, all I did was write it. And so Jack was very down on himself as far as where he was going and saying, I'll never forget this. He said to me, Jack, if you're listening, I'll give you my phone number. I don't know if he would ever say, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't
Yeah.
remember this, but I said to him, he said, I want to just concentrate on my music. And he told me he had a partner and he didn't say more than that. It was like a rock thing and not act anymore. And I said, listen, if you put on 30 pounds, 40 pounds, Hollywood now, they always need, Belushi's dead, John Candy's dead. I gave him the speech. You need a funny fat guy. You got the edge of Jack Nicholson, and I named these guys.
Yeah.
And you got to be the fat, outrageous guy. There is none right now. You could be that guy. Next thing I know, he's in the record store, the movie,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
boom, he's Jack Black.
Mhm.
Yep.
He put on. Look at him, rolling around doing cartwheels, fat in all these movies. The crazy guy. That's what I was talking about. Now, Jack. You're going to deny I said that? 10%. All right, 5%. All right,
Well,
dinner.
his partner Kyle Gass has been on the show, so maybe he'll be watching. We don't know. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, if I would really love, I would just love to see if he remembered that, because I was so thrilled to see. It's like I went, that's exactly what I was talking about, and maybe it would have happened anyway, but I really doubt it. I think he just took my
Yeah, he
advice.
took your advice. He's like, I'm gonna keep this to heart. Yeah. So I want people to go read your book. Not just because you're on here. It really is an entertaining book, and I loved it. The audiobooks on Audible. You can go with the actual book on Amazon. You can get it from you too. You can get it You can get it autographed, right?
Oh,
Yeah, that's the only way. Even the remote control. I have. Yeah.
Yeah, your
So what?
movies are hard to find. Like most of them aren't streaming.
Most of them are.
They're
Or
not. They're not. Most of them aren't like like most people's movies like on Tubi for free or something. A lot of your movies are harder to find. Like you have
no, but
the cool Blu-ray releases
right
and stuff
now
like
on Shutter and AMC Plus, Satan's Little Helper
Yeah.
and Blue Sunshine are in the rotation for the next 2 years. So that's easy.
Mhm.
If you have either of those. And Squirm is Amazon because they own it. Remote control, because I don't own it, so I can't. But I have the Blu-rays, and that's so the Blu-rays and the book are both JeffLiebermanDirector.com. That's JeffLiebermanDirector.com. In New Jersey, it's JeffLiebermanDirector.com.
All right, I'll put the link on the website.
In Wisconsin,
oh,
Jeff Lieberman Director.
Oh, okay. All right.
But and you can get them, and then I could sign it. Otherwise, if you get them on Amazon, you get it on Amazon. But I have no way to sign it.
Yeah.
Same price.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's funny actually. In the chat here, Old Punk in Paradise, he had mentioned that he bought remote control on eBay, and then he said this was earlier in the night. He said the thing it was sent from said Jeff Lieberman on the envelope, and he always wondered if it was directly from you. So it probably was.
That's a very good assumption.
on his journey.
Yeah, on his Jeff Lieberman journey and his deep dive into
dive,
remote control. Yeah,
Deep dive.
yeah. Or it's such a weird coincidence that another Jeff Lieberman is selling remote control.
What are the chances?
Yeah.
There is another Jeff Lieberman,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a show called Time Warp. It was on the Discovery Channel.
Okay.
Showing things in ultra slow motion. He was the host because he's a nerd from MIT, and I got him the agent. He's a robotics expert.
Oh wow.
And I was getting email. He was getting emails that were aimed at me. I don't know. So I connected with him, and he was still at MIT, and I helped him get an agent. And then he got that Time Warp show, and he was the head nerd host. Common name.
Yeah, I like that. There's another Neal Jones out there, spells his name the same way. And when I first got on Facebook, I had like 3 people message me asking me if I want to do an interview about Dirty Dancing, and I had no idea why. I was like, why would I want to talk? And then I found out that that's a Neal Jones from the movie Dirty Dancing.
Yeah, well, that's a
Oh, okay.
common name also.
Yeah, but it was
You know what I realized?
Mine spelled a little different than most people's.
You know, I realized something about these podcasts, that it's not so much how many people. Are you on other things other than YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, Spotify, yeah, all the platforms.
Yeah, okay. You say it doesn't matter the number of people that see it initially. I was thinking that to younger people today, like my grandchildren, one is 13,
Mm-hmm.
to them, ABC, CBS, that doesn't exist. NBC, those mean absolutely nothing. YouTube is 100 times more familiar to them than what we used to call the networks and the local stations and all. It's all Spotify, streaming. This is their world, their vocabulary. The chances of, say, I was thinking about this before. The chances of my great-great-grandchildren, I don't know, my great-grandfather, say, couldn't name them. I have no idea, right? They could go on the future internet and find all the shit that I've been interviewed. Where are they really going to look for I Love Lucy?
Exactly.
You know, or the Twilight Zone? From their perspective, this is the shit, right? And so the world of podcasts is what they watch, not situation comedy of up to even in the 90s. They're not going to be looking at that unless they're in an esoteric little, film school, history thing. But their basic thing is going to be the go-to is going to be podcast. Joe Rogan is going to be equivalent already that Ed Sullivan used to be.
Yeah, it's way more people watch. Yeah, millions
it's
of
already
viewers. But we started podcasting before podcast was like a term in 2005, and it's weird even me to look back at just some of the people like Ben Chapman's been on the show who played Creature from the Black Lagoon in 1954, and it's just cool that we got to talk to him.
Oh, yeah.
And that will live on forever, as you kind of mentioned there. And I do regret. You talk about regrets in your book. You have a couple, but not really pursuing people a little harder. When we first started, I actually talked with the Ray Harryhausen, trying to get him on the show, and he was interested, but he was like celebrating his 90th birthday at the time. But I look back like, man, I really should have like really pursued that harder, because that would have been amazing to have an interview with Ray Harryhausen that would just be here forever.
I was at a film festival and he was at the same one. I don't remember which one, but in Europe, and he and his wife, and I talked to him about I never liked that the stop action.
Oh, I'm a fan of it. But
it looks so fake to me that I never connected to it. The Cyclops, all those things, the unnatural.
The uncanny valley, I think they call it. Yeah,
it's not even the uncanny valley. It's the herky jerk. You're too aware of how they did it. Like,
right?
You
definitely are. I think it's like if something you grew up with it, I just enjoy it. I think, but I understand.
I grew up with it, but it never the Cyclops and the reaching down.
Skeleton.
I was too aware of the process when I saw it to really get into it. So, but I didn't tell him that.
I was just going to ask, did you say, "Hey, you're stuck, buddy"? But yeah.
Yeah, but I hate everything, so that's just.
Fair enough. John Reddy just bought the book on Audible. All right, nice. Thank you, John.
Oh, yeah, that's Frank Santapadre. The guy that you listen to is the guy that Gilbert Gottfried had a.
Oh yeah.
So that was him and Frank.
Oh, okay, yeah. He read the book really well, which It seems
Frank
like
was
common sense that you need a good reader for the audiobooks. Because I have listened to some audiobooks where if they have like a very uninteresting person, like you just kind of drift away and don't pay attention. But he's got a lot of character in his voice.
yeah. Well, the publisher wanted me to do the voice, and everybody was saying I should do it,
Mhm.
and they're mistaking me talking to you now or when I get up. When I have a screening and there's 200 people, it's almost like I'm there like Jerry Seinfeld. Like I entertain. I have a natural thing. A rapport. Is that a word? I have to screw this stop.
Just
Yeah,
like
there you
screw this
go. Right on.
controller.
And uh, so, but to read my own book, it would sound like I'm reading the Bible. Like I'm reading.
Uh-huh.
I can't be the way I'm talking now, even though I wrote the book the way
Yeah.
I speak.
Yeah, some people are like that though. Like Stephen King, I never like when he reads his own stuff.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
much rather
yeah.
have
So
somebody else
I
do
didn't
it.
even try. I just said no, and because Frank was a fan of mine, I never met him. In fact, Frank said they were going to have me, Gilbert, and they were going to have me on his show.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, so Gilbert, to get out of it, Gilbert died.
If Lieberman's coming on, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and so Frank did it, and he's a great guy, very knowledgeable on film. Boy, whew. They all know so much more than I do, especially like Dana. Did you ever see Dana Gould? He's like,
Yeah, no, he is, but I didn't know he's such a big movie
Yeah, I
guy.
know.
he does a character, does Dr. Z, the guy from um, you know Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Zayas?
Yeah, and he has what he calls it Dr. Z, and he had it made professionally, the same gorilla face guy, and he talks perfectly,
wow.
and he has a podcast that just Dr. Z having guests on. It's fucking hilarious.
That's
I didn't
great.
know
I
this.
love
I'm gonna
And
that.
then
watch.
he does these shows. He did Plan 9 from Outer Space, which I saw. That
Mhm.
they all, like, I think Lorraine Newman and some people get together and they read the script of those movies,
Yeah.
and
Great. Yeah.
he's just encyclopedic on this stuff.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Where can people? Do you want people to follow you on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook too. I don't know what they call. I fucked it up when I first went on Facebook. I did this thing. Little did I realize it was um, the personal thing. They have I didn't know they had, in their early days, a
Right.
separate thing like a fan page.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I did the personal thing, and I filled up so much. You only get like 5,000.
Yeah.
So
And then they turn you
then I
into
started the fan page separate. But all I do is anytime I put something, I just put it on both. There's no difference. So you can but the best one is to look on my main one. What do you call the main one?
just your personal page.
Yeah, my personal page.
Yeah.
And
All right.
it's my name, director, but it's like it's really a weird thing because I don't know these people that are friends.
Mhm.
This idea, I mean, Zuckerberg is a genius to come up with that people, you friended him, you unfriended him. That's a new language. It's like that goes along with the journey. Along my journey, I friended so many people on my journey. And then I did a deep dive into one of them, and I found out
You had
they're
to
not
unfriend
really
them
my
then.
friends, so I unfriended them. In fact, I blocked them.
Yeah.
And you never meet them, you never talk to them, but these are friends.
Yeah.
So
You
great.
talked to probably a dozen of them or
It's
so.
so bizarre.
Uh-huh.
It's so great to be your friend. Is that what you think of friend? It's like lend me $5. Well, not that kind of friend. And anyway, so whenever I see these things on the stream and stuff, it reminds me of all of social media. Here's what I'm going to sound like an old crabby guy. Everybody more or less sounds like Joe. In other words, it's what we used to call the drunk at the end of the bar.
Uh-huh.
And you go to a bar, and there's always one guy, and he goes, "You know what's wrong today? You know, Reagan, fuck him, and I would, and this is the way I would do it. Why don't they pay?" And what you did then is you reached out and you picked up your drink, and you walked to the other end of the room and get away from. Well, you can't do that on the internet. That's who they are. They migrated from the bar. The drunk at the end of the bar today could be at the bar, but he has a cell phone.
Oh, yeah, good point. That's
Yeah.
everybody moved away from them.
He's broadcasting it to the world. You can't outlaw that. And that's all everybody's an expert on every fucking thing. They're blowhard. Again, it's very similar to the making movies with the cell phones. There was a floodgate where you could be the drunk at the end of the bar, but you're not going to get a column in the New York Times. Right? You're not going to get on the radio as an announcer. So you could blast away in the bar until people just tell you to shut up or walk away. Or on a street corner, you could yell on a soapbox with an American flag. But now, because of the internet, everybody makes their movie directors. Instead of making a home movie, no, I was shooting my film. Where's the film? Well, it's just a term. You're not making a film. You never saw a film. You never held a film. You wouldn't know. Call it what it is. You like video. It's video, digital video recording. That's what it is. It's not a film. And they all do it. You can't stop it. Well, it's the same thing with politics. Everybody's an expert on the COVID thing. I couldn't believe, with a virus, I was a polio pioneer on my journey, in the early part of my journey. I was a polio pioneer. Well, what was that? Well, we had this thing called polio, and it was hitting kids, and they were getting paralyzed and dying, and they didn't have a vaccine. When Jonas Salk came up with the vaccine, they had to test it. Who were the guinea pigs? Public school kids were guinea pigs. Imagine that. He's going to take a live, dead vaccine, dead germs, and dilute it somehow and inject it into your kids and give him a mild cold. If something goes wrong, he's going to get polio. Our parents, when they were so freaked out about it, they had a thing called polio pioneers, and you had with the parents' permission, you line up at school, they give you a shot, and they don't tell you whether you're getting the placebo or the real thing. So, who knows about these fucking things, right? I mean, we went through that. I thought I got the real thing and my brother got the placebo. He recently told me, he's a pediatrician, he told me it was the other way around. And I had to go back because they told you afterwards. They wanted to see who gets polio and who doesn't. And it worked. But a very close friend of my mother's son, same thing. And one got the placebo and he got polio. And he was paralyzed for the rest of his life. And so, but everybody is an expert on today. You know what I read about this shit, the COVID thing? 2 months before, because they're going through all the stuff that was suppressed by the FBI and the CIA, but they have the actual papers. 2 months before we knew about COVID, the American Olympic team, I think, was in Wuhan or whatever it's called, right? Yeah. They got COVID and came back to the States. So it was already spreading. They just suppressed that. They made up this whole thing about the bat. They just made it up, just like they made up that you're going to duck under your desk. It's the same. Are you nuts? If you told me, oh, this comes from a wet market and it comes from a bat. Now, I never heard of any of that shit. Well, somehow a game jumped from the bat. And historically, it's very rare that disease can jump from animals to people.
Right.
It can happen. then you tell me, well, we found out that there's a lab that in Antarctica, inaccessible place, Antarctica, that's doing this gain of function thing that's very similar to this thing and this kind of disease, the exact same thing, but it's in Antarctica. You go, so that's got nothing to do with the wet market in China. Oh, no, I made a mistake. It's 2 blocks from the wet market. It's not in Antarctica. It's in the same place as this lab, but it's got nothing to do with it. How stupid do you have to be to go along with that? They just think you're an idiot. It turns out, it came from the fucking lab, right? That's not rocket science. That's like blatantly, if everybody's lying at the same time, which I saw when I was a kid, and historically they look back at the Russians and what they had, they didn't have car. They couldn't make a car back then in the 50s, right? They were decimated by World War II. The last thing, they had the atomic bomb. To have an ICBM, they call the International Ballistic Missile, to go from Russia to my school in Valley Stream with a 100 megaton bomb, it's laughable. They didn't have the ability to do that. And we had missiles in Sweden and Denmark aimed right at their fucking temples if they tried it with nuclear weapons. They didn't tell us that, right? And so we got to fight the Russians. We got to spend more money and have bigger bombs and more bombs than them. That's where the money is. The same thing. They think you're an idiot. And you know what? If you look at the bell curve, most people are. It came from the bats. Really? Yeah, I saw it on the CNN. It's the bats. You got the bat fever. Don't you know? Put on a mask. And I said, gee, you know what it's like, Simple Simon? Simon says, put on a mask. Simon says, take on the mask. You see these fucking politicians on TV. They have video of them making speeches and then taking their masks off. They're doing it for the camera. How dumb do you have to be? Pretty dumb.
Well, I know when we went to the movies during that period, you could take your mask off if you were eating popcorn or whatever. So,
wait a minute. That's the other thing. You got to wear a mask to get to they would just it was like, you're an idiot, right? So you're an idiot. So I could say anything and it'll make sense to you. Right this way, you can't come in without a mask. Okay? When you sit down to eat, you can take it off. So now you're one of the COVID germs. You go, I'm going to get that motherfucker. I'm going to put him in an iron lung. He took a mask off. We'll just wait him out. Wait till he's finished eating.
He's eating his ear of corn and it'll be all right. Yeah.
It's unbelievable what people do. I, being me, I said, okay, the gym, you're going to the gym. I would say to people, are you crazy? You go to the gym? That's like people, sweating and everything. Me and my wife, we had the whole fucking gym to ourselves. Everything, we had a pool. It's like, I'd say, you go in the jacuzzi. I said, that's like a petri dish. If they had any brains, it's the highest chlorine that would kill anything, right? It's totally safe. Had everything to myself. We go to restaurants, no reservations. Saturday night, best table. There's nobody there. And if they were, they'd go sit in the street, right? It's like, you can take advantage of stupidity. I do. I see this stuff all the time, and the internet and social media just blew it up to everybody's expert on everything, and they don't have any critical thinking or common sense. They just, if they heard it and they hear what they want to hear in the headline or whatever, did you hear? And they quote the headline, the other person takes it as truth. Instead of saying, get the fuck out of here. If you start off with, get the fuck out of here, and have to be proven everything, you'd be so better off. But I sound like Joe now. Everybody say, oh, this is open. Why don't you go to the bar right now and you could say this? I don't care. But you know what I'm talking about. All you got to do is scroll and you go, oh, man.
Oh, believe me, I'm aware.
I mean, You ever hear the expression, you don't know what you don't know?
Oh yeah.
And you know, and it's funny, there's some things that are good about the internet. It's like YouTube. You can go back and find before that, you know, they were scrubbing before Elon Musk took over Twitter, everything was scrubbed. So like it was all controlled what you saw. That if you see the Twitter files, you say this is America, the things they blocked about COVID alone, it's unbelievable that they had the power to do that. And the FBI told Google and Facebook what they can and cannot say, and it has to be the party line. It's the same. It's the bats, and it's the, you know, they actually said this. You stick to the narrative, and you're cool with that. That ain't the '60s, brother. We would have been in what I used to think my generation was just the opposite. It's like, don't believe. We never believed anything. And we were right to not believe anything until it's absolutely proven. The Salk vaccine turned out. There was a guy named Albert Sabin. He was another scientist, and he was saying that the Salk vaccine is too dangerous because if you're going to do it in a small amount of people, polio, it'll work, but it's dealing with dead, full-blown polio virus, only dead. That's what he injected you with.
Mm-hmm.
And you would build up an immunity from that. Sabin said he wanted to use highly diluted live polio, but it can be controlled in a sugar cube. They give it no injection. And because of the march of dimes in politics, Jonas Salk won the day, and if you look up, he won a Nobel Prize. If you look up who cured polio, it's Jonas Salk. Well, there was a giant fuck up in Chicago where an entire school system got live polio because they weren't dead, and it was full on, and they all got fucking polio, and half of them died. And then quietly they went over to the Sabin vaccine, and that to this day, that's what they used, and they eradicated polio. So it just shows that, and the government was saying, you know, Jonas Salk, and you got to get these shots. The shots that I got were so dangerous. And that's what this guy Sabin was saying, but they shut him up just the way they shut up all the people that were saying anything negative about this. And you can read it yourself. It's not like, oh, I'm a conspiracy. I read it back then when Elon took over Twitter, and he just published it all. But the media was saying, don't read it. It's bullshit. Because this is the stuff they suppress. It's just incredible. So this came out today, and I read it, and in Wuhan, the Chinese knew about this for 2 months. And the guy from the American team said that Wuhan was like a ghost town. That's how many people died before we even knew about it. So, and then I remember this Fauci guy, all of a sudden he's like the Muhammad Ali of science, and he's out there and he says, you can find this. He looks in the camera and says, the chances of it getting to America was minuscule. That means don't worry. Mm-hmm. How do you go from minuscule to you got to get this vaccine or you're going to die? And if you get the vaccine, you're not going to die. Well, I got the vaccine. I got really sick. Well, you would have gotten sicker if you didn't get the vaccine. They're just making shit up. You said I wouldn't get it. Now you're saying, well, if you get it, and then they said, well, yeah, you can get really sick, but you're less likely to spread it. They just kept moving the goalposts because they're making shit up. I grew up questioning every fucking thing that I was told from school and from the government. That has really changed. Everybody's ready to just swallow anything. See The Ringer. That was what The Ringer was about. Did you see The Ringer?
No, I read about it in your book, but I didn't realize it was on YouTube. Like
it's
you said,
on YouTube.
So I'm gonna really check it out.
Yeah, it's only 18 minutes of your valuable time.
We'll check it out.
If you want to do a deep dive,
I will do a deep dive. Yeah. And Cine Muerte. Did anything come of that?
No. But if anybody out there wants to support, not money,
Oh,
support.
hmm
I would love your support if you have like a trust fund in the millions. We're not talking about
fair enough.
5,000.
Fair enough. All right.
It only takes like one air out there, put you in the movie. No, it's really hard. I mean,
Yeah.
independent films. I had John Turturro. I had Gael Garcia Bernal. It was like a real movie, Christine Vachon, and it was 6.2 million, and which is low budget,
Mhm.
and it just the financial thing happened, and we were this close. We were going to start rehearsal. I was down to picking a DP, and that would have been a big deal for me because it would be like kind of a crossover to Hollywood type movie.
Mhm.
But it didn't happen. See, that's what I'm talking about. There was no luck.
Yeah.
A little bit of luck, I would have been. She said that if we went into production 2 months, we had the money, and then the banks froze up. That's what happened. William Morris was putting up 3 million in foreign, and the banks just froze up. They couldn't make any movie if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So
And
I was a casualty.
yeah, and today, you said that it's like relatively low budget, but smaller budget horror movies are what makes like money at the theater today.
Well, yeah, that's always been the case because, like, you're talking about Terrifier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Terrifier. Yeah, Terrifier movies
yeah,
did
but
really
the thing about Terrifier is you could say that back then it was Friday the 13th, but you didn't know the hundreds of titles that you never
Oh,
heard.
right, right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
only see, and you go, you see, that's what makes money. It's not true because how come the other ones don't
It's
even
an
get
outlier. Yeah.
distribution? You don't
For
even
some
know
reason,
them.
it really just connected with people. Yeah.
And well, I don't know. It's got to play for an audience. It's got to work, right? And
Oh, yeah.
Terrifier. I mean, I saw it. I said, wait, that's Satan's Little Helper. I made 20 years ago.
Uh,
That guy. What's the difference between Art the Clown and my Satan?
yeah, it's basically a mime, as you
It's
said. Yeah.
all mime,
Yeah.
all pantomime, and he's got the
Yeah.
same fun thing where he's goofing around and stuff. Only the difference is that's a blood and gore fest, and mine wasn't.
Hmm.
And evidently the new audience hasn't seen. It's their Texas Chainsaw Murder, like they extreme violent movie for the sake of violence with no real anything more to it.
Hmm.
Makes it for their generation. It becomes something other than just a
Yeah,
blood.
it is weird how big that became because like it's the first one's pretty low. It was I don't know, 50 grand. I don't know, it wasn't very big budget. It stood out to me, so I had the people on, and then the movie really blew up. And then the second one, it was gonna be at the theaters for like 3 days, and people just kept going to see it, and that making like 15 or 20 million. And then this last one, the third one, had a little bit bigger budget, but still not very big, and it's made over $100 million. It's
Yeah, well, they basically they're waiting for the next unique kill.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
Hmm.
And to me, I don't relate to that at all. Like I would say, if somebody wanted me to direct Terrifier 5 or whatever, I'd say, no way. Like you do not need me. I would add something that it already works with just stupid, clever kill, saw him in half, all that shit. That's what it is. Don't fuck it up with social commentary, with the stuff I do, or sight gags. If I did Halloween, I wouldn't say you never would have heard of it. First of all, it wouldn't be called Halloween because it's called The Babysitter Murders. And it was Deborah Hill that, and John Carpenter, they said, well, let's have it take place on Halloween. So we called the movie Halloween. I wouldn't have done that, because, the reason I say this is because had I gone to the London back then, the only time I met John Carpenter, I actually went out to dinner. He had done The Fog.
Yeah.
I went to a screening and he knew Squirm and all. And then we went to some restaurant, and he said he went to the London Film Festival, and Blue Sunshine was at the London Film Festival, and he said that the reviews, if you go back, what do you have, like Assault on Precinct 13, I guess, something like that at that time. And he said that Blue Sunshine got much better reviews, much more attention at Cannes and everything. He said the difference is he went there with Deborah Hill, and I wasn't there. He taught me, you have these festivals, you have to go. If you want to get another movie from foreign guys, they want the director to be there and talk to you after the film and everything. He was given at that festival, he was given that script, The Babysitter Murders, can you do this for $300,000? And he said, yeah. And then he and Deborah changed it to Halloween. So I said, so wait, you're telling me that if I went there, and there was a reporter from the Times, I think, that was covering him. And I said, is he saying that if I went there and my film was better received than his film, his was good, but like Blue Sunshine, that's how they made all those deals. I said, so they would have offered me this thing that became Halloween, and he said, yeah, probably. I said, had I done that, see, like, this is where the non-asshole Jeff Lieberman comes in. Because the asshole would say, I would have made Halloween. I would have been John Carpenter. How could that be? He's John Carpenter. He made a perfect movie, turned it into a perfect movie. Perfect movie, like set a whole thing in motion, but not, it's what he didn't do. It was like straight down the middle, knew exactly what it was. It worked every frame of it, the music, everything about it. I give him a AAA. Had I done it, I would have made it my kind of film. I don't do that. I put in the social commentary. I'm not him. He's not me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make one horror movie after another, and he did. So there's that would have been the biggest mistake in the world, is for them to give it to me instead of him. That's the truth.
Did you go to many festivals after that, like yourself? No.
Back then, I didn't go to, they had to pay for, somebody had to pay for it. I didn't go for Squirm, which was the hit of the market in that year, and I didn't go to Blue Sunshine. Never to Cannes. I've been to Cannes in the south of France, but not during the festival. And I never went. So I never went there. But Satan's Little Helper, on the other hand, was Tribeca, and it got tremendous reviews in the Hollywood Reporter and Variety, because when they played there. I mean, they loved it. And then Brussels, which is a very big fantasy film festival. It's gigantic in Brussels, so it was invited to that. And then I did a whole series of Berlin and Ravenna and Malaga, Spain. I was always invited with Satan's Little Helper, and I was either the head of the jury or the guest of honor, and I must have done 15 different film festivals. It's called the Fantasy Film Federation, FFF, and they have. I did a great one in Edinburgh, Scotland, a few years back, and either they're going to show 3 of my movies, or they have to justify the money to send you over from the States, But I did several of them, at least 15. I'm still doing them, and I did Manchester just this past. Where I showed Satan's Little Helper this past October, Halloween night, in the Prada Museum in Milan.
Oh wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It was the Jean-Luc Godard screening room, state of the art. Put us in a 4-star hotel, and it was fantastic. Sold out. They loved it. They're getting into Halloween, you know. And
that one in Fright Fest, was that? I mean, the one in Scotland, was that it? Was that Fright Fest, Scotland?
No, that was Dead by Dawn.
Okay.
She doesn't do it anymore. It was in the old film house. That was terrific. And you know, it's funny, when I do them, I would see who did it last year, and if I know the people, like in the case of Dead by Dawn, John Landis did it.
Oh wow.
So I asked John,
make sure it's on
how's the
YouTube.
hotel? What's a good bar? Same with Mick Harris and Joe Dante.
Nice.
They went, you know, they're asking me because they're going to invite. But it was funny that the Americans that they bring, like the same people, and so we would all ask, you know, what's the C and stuff. And so Landis did it the year before me. It was great. So you get to see, and then I went back to Brussels again a couple of years ago, a thing called the Off Screen. It's a hipper, way smaller, more funky, but very cool, like an underground thing. Where the Biff thing is, they have so much money. They give everybody a car.
Oh wow.
Your own car and driver. You know, you want to go to Bruges? Okay, pick you up. And you get to meet other. I get to meet at that one. I met Dario Argento, who I never met.
Oh wow.
And hang out. Dario Argento did Dawn of the Dead, but it was called Zombies.
Yeah,
that was the name of the movie, Zombies. It was financed by Titanus. It was an Italian company, and they had all their money offshore because of the previous. What was the one before that? Wait, they made the money on Zombies, right? And they had all the money offshore. Zombies said, Dario Argento presents a George Romero film, Zombies, and they called it Dawn of the Dead. Some guy from Italy flies over and meets with me, and he says he represents that company, that Italian company. They had all this money offshore, and they didn't want to bring it into Italy to get taxed. It's like a tax dodge. And they want to do, he shows me the artwork, and he goes, Dario Argento presents a Jeff Lieberman film, Mummies. And it was like, he reveals the artwork, and it looked like a whole, like marching soldiers of zombies, only they're mummies with like toilet paper unraveling, you know, like, you know, it's the same thing, but they're mummies. Why the mummies? No script. He wanted to be able to go to the Cannes Film Festival and just sell it. That's what they used to do. I'm the director of Squirm and Mummies. And obviously, that's when I did Just Before Dawn, just before that. So I said to Dario, I said, do you remember? I said, you're probably not going to remember this. Mummy said, he cracked up. He said, absolutely. He knew about it. He approved it because he just wanted the money. It was just about the money. You put it on the George Romero film. They just used his name to get the money. So it's the same thing. So Mummy, he saw the same artwork and thought it was just as stupid. And that's one of the good things. When you go there, that was Paul Schrader was there, and Amanda came, and she was a judge. And so you really you get to. I did one in Malaga, and Tippi Hedren was it was a pretty big one, and she was the guest of honor, and I was the head of the jury. We hit it off like unbelievable, and Dolph Lundgren and Michael Ironside, just at that one. We'd go on expeditions, and that's how I wound up in, if you read my book, I wound up in Antonio Banderas's house.
Yeah. Which you didn't know it was, because you're like, who's Antonio?
That's awesome.
Waving the sword. around, his Zorro sword. So it's a kind of a bonus area. You don't make the
Oh,
film,
yeah.
so you could do this, but so it's sort of like the gravy because you don't expect it, and all of a sudden you're flying all over the world, and you have the audience, and this like I just did this in Manchester, then flew to Milan, and then back to Birmingham. And the Birmingham one was Jeff Lieberman. I don't know if I said this before, but it was just me for 2 days. So they were showing stuff to other, not just the genre movies, the documentaries and stuff. And that was very cool because I have everything now on DCP. So just bring these little files.
Yeah, you don't have to bring giant reels of a
Yeah,
film.
that's awesome.
Well,
Actually, I didn't, most of the time I don't bring anything. I just email. I send it to a site. I stream it to them.
Oh, okay.
Just send a file. They're big files, but you do it overnight, and they get it. They download it. That's how when you go to a movie theater, that's what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
They're downloading it from the studio, and it goes on their drive, and then they have it like Mission Impossible. After a week, it disappears unless it's a 2 week.
Right.
My movie, there's no Mission Impossible. It's just like, don't use it again.
This will self-destruct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's that's a wild. I'm a big fan of going to festivals. They don't give me cars or anything, but I still have a good time going to
I
the
couldn't
film
believe it. Had the name of the festival. They had all these brand new Volkswagens, and each of us got like Paul Schrader, and they're there with their wives and all. And I said, "What about Bruges?" She goes, "Yes, we can do that. We'll pick you up at 8:00." And they drive us to fucking Bruges.
That's badass. I love it.
Yeah.
That's just too cool.
Yeah, and it's like, really? Okay. And especially the big ones, they have big sponsorships, so they can do that. And the what do you call it? Prada Museum, that they're billions and billions of dollars at Prada, and that's state of the art. And they just they'll fly you in. They're not trying to make money. It's all endowment money, and it's great. And it's kind of an honor to have you film in the Godard Theater and then have a major exhibition the night before in the same place. You go, like, I'm thinking, who the hell would want to be at a party that would invite me? So it's like guilt by association, like artists by association. That Squirm played Lincoln Center once.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
I thought it was a gag. I had nothing to do with it because I didn't own the movie. And then John Waters told me he said, "Oh well, he had my movie the year before. They played Pink Flamingos in the same theater at
Wow.
Lincoln." I go, "Well, we're artists, it just took a while for people to realize that." Yeah, Lincoln Center. I took a picture of the marquee because
Oh, yeah.
who's going to believe that? Yeah.
So, what would be your favorite festival?
Well, the ones I went to, I would say it's close. I don't even have one because I could tell you the ones I had the most fun was the Brussels and Malaga because of Tippy and the side trips that we took and the fun we had. And then, it was really cool. I did this. See it, Night Visions?
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
really cool shirt.
And
I love
in Helsinki, Denmark.
Oh, wow.
And wait, Finland. See, that's a typical American.
Yeah.
Finland. And you guys didn't. I said
Nope,
Helsinki.
Should have known that because there's
You
a
didn't correct.
wrestler from Helsinki. But
And it was weird. This guy Miko, great guy, runs it. He says to me, you're going to be honored at the American Embassy, a cocktail party. I said, get the fuck American Embassy. And then I go, wait, Helsinki. They always say, oh, we're going to, Trump is meeting with Putin, and it's always Helsinki. And that's the American Embassy, like the main one.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we go there and they're having a party. And I got up there and I went, this is unbelievable that this is the best thing that they could do with my tax money is to have, and they all cracked up. I said, you have absolutely nothing to do in this building until the next Putin thing happens. So they, it was weird. We have pictures of me with the big, American Embassy thing, it's all official. And the British Embassy was across the street. And yeah. And then so that, they're all cool in a different different reason. The one in Edinburgh is Edinburgh. It's like stayed at the Balmoral, that famous hotel with the clock tower.
I've never been there.
Oh, yeah.
It's been in a lot of movies. And so that's where what's her name wrote Harry Potter.
Oh.
She had a suite, and we had the same suite underneath. They treat you like, who's to complain about any of this stuff? It's all bonus stuff. It's like I didn't know they existed, and it's just here's another word I don't use. Ready? Got journey, deep dive, blessing.
Okay.
I feel blessed.
Mm-hmm.
Who's
You're blessed for your festival journey. Yeah.
Like, who's doing the blessing? If you feel blessed, ED, then you're the blessee. Who's the blesser?
Okay.
We'll have to do a deep dive into that.
Out there particularly blessing me unless I sneeze. I mean, that's a different story. So, anyway.
Well, George Burns, he played God. He gave you the cigar.
True.
So
when we went to the restaurant with George Burns, everybody said, "Hi, God. Hi, God." He was God. Everybody during that period of time. George, I wish he was alive. He'd be 120. I wish he wasn't alive.
He's simply drinking the martinis and trying to drive your car.
Gin martinis.
Smoking the cigar.
I mean, we were faced. Gin martinis. And the guy was pouring them. And I'm sure that wasn't what he didn't wait to have a martini for the company to come. And he didn't even know that it was going to be double date. I don't know if I put that in the book, but he had a 32-year-old girlfriend. He's 80. I made the deal that you're going to set this thing up so I can meet George Burns on a double date. Mm-hmm. So I would do the Sgt. Pepper advertising. That was the agreement because I did Tommy.
Yeah.
The same people. It's in the book. I know I'm not making sense, but it's in the book.
I read it. So I'm following, but I understand if you've read
I know,
the book.
but out there in TV land.
Yeah, Troy.
So I said, so he was like, "Who the fuck is this?" He made that face like, "What?" I didn't sign on to have a double date. He wanted to be with her, so I knew I'm getting off to a bad. Sitting there and he's not looking at me, the body language, and everything. This is gonna be a long night sitting on the couch. And he's paying attention to his main girl. And then this people from the ad agency come in and they want to drop by and just say hello to him. And the typical thing of, oh, Mr. Burns, I've seen, the stuff he hears all the time from fans. One of them, this woman says, "Well, how did you even start in show business? How did you and Gracie start on the radio?" And he stops. He's got a cigar. Wait, actual cigar. And he says, like he never heard that question before. He's thinking. And he says, "I asked Gracie how her brother was doing, and she talked for the next 20 years." Right? That's not the joke. On the other side of the couch, I knew somebody has to feed him, set him up for the joke. So I said, "So then how did you get into television?" And he looked at me. For the first time, he looked at me. And he goes, I asked Gracie how her sister was doing. She talked for the next 20 years. And then he turns to me and goes, what are you drinking? And he knew it's in I grew up with comedians and all that stuff, and I know how the shit works. And he can't do his thing without me or Gracie. You need somebody to set up each thing. That was it. What are you drinking? From then on, he told me every story you would want. He'd go, well, you want to hear about Jackie Lennon, Jackie Mason, and he went through it, and that was just the Jacks. Like everybody in show business, he knew them, every story.
Oh, I can imagine.
It was just incredible. And drunk.
They usually go well together.
Yeah, and the fact that he lived another 20 years.
Yeah. Did you stay in touch with them like much after that, or at all after that?
So regret that I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. I don't have an answer for that, because I knew where he lived, and I just, at that time I was just moving ahead in high speed. I got into LA, and you get, there's an expression where somebody's hot. You say you're hot. If you're hot in Hollywood, you're making more money than anybody can dream of, right? I was warm. I reached the level of warm. And warm, 99% of people don't make that kind of money. Being warm, that they don't even know. Like, you write a script that doesn't get made, you made 175 grand. So you don't even know. I wrote so many studio movies that didn't get made, along with a lot of other people, because they have to put that money in development to come up with something. There's so many elements, the casting and who wants to play that role. I almost had a movie with Dustin Hoffman. I wrote the script for Dustin. He wanted to play the part. I pitched it to him, and it's TriStar Pictures, big time. And they give you more money than you got the last time. Instead of saying, wait, the last one didn't get made, why should I give you more money? That's the way it works. They give you more money for a movie that's not going to get made, because they don't think that. They think, well, you attracted Dustin Hoffman, which is, it's true that I was able to write something that he. But
interesting.
There's a whole invisible world out there that people are, if you have the skill, that you don't know about, because the movies don't get made. And I was warm. I was in the warm. And then the Never Ending Story was no different than the other ones, except it did get made.
Oh,
right.
Something went wrong. Something went really wrong.
Those other scripts, like, do you like own them, or does someone else own them?
No, the studios own them. As a matter of fact, the one that I wrote with Dustin, Spielberg and Barry Levinson talked him out of doing it. It was all about Spielberg told him it sounded like, first of all, he shouldn't have been showing the script to anybody. But that's what actors, he wanted to get a director, because he controlled the script. TriStar would be his production company. So Dustin shows it to, he was doing Hook, Captain Hook.
Yeah.
So on the set, he said to Spielberg, he told him, he didn't show him the script, he told him what it's about. And if you tell him what it's about, it sounded like Back to the Future. So he said, sounds like Back to the Future, because Dustin, if I pitched it to him, it wouldn't sound anything like it. And then he went to Barry Levinson, another director that he worked with Rain Man, and he was supposed to play in my script. It was called Us, and it's a guy who's 80 years old, and he goes back in time, and for a unique reason, but he's back in time meeting his younger self. So it's two guys in the same movie. Today, it would be so easy, special effects, but this was in 1989. So it would be very expensive, like green screen. And and Barry Levinson said, you're going to wear this old man makeup. You said you hated wearing makeup, and literally he talked about it. He said, you're never going to play against yourself because you're going to be on green screen. It's not going to be when you read the script, these two guys are talking to each other. That's only when the movie's finished. So anyway, it didn't get made. I got paid. You know, you get much more money when the movie gets made, but you get a lot of money initially. To me, it was a lot of money. And they own it. And then I find out the Writers Guild, this is Columbia Pictures. The Writers Guild made a rule that's still in force that if a thing is dormant for 5 years, even though you don't own it, the writer, it's an original material, you have the right to shop it somewhere else, and they get their money back, whatever they put into it, which is nothing compared to movie. So I said to my agent, I got nothing to lose. Let's do it. Fill out the papers, a very short form, sent it to Columbia and said, this is what I want to do. And my agent gets a call. My agent calls me and he says, I got a call from Columbia, the head of the studio, and they don't want to do it. I said, what are you talking about? They don't want to do it. They don't have a choice. This is a thing that they all signed on, and they should be glad they can get their money back. They don't want to make the movie. He goes, you don't understand. They said, no, they don't want to do it. I said, I do understand. I mean, he was jerky. He was like, I said, oh, what are you talking about? What, they want to pay me to not do it? He goes, mm-hmm.
Wow.
They want to pay me to not try to get the money back. I mean, I'm not trying to get the money back, but if I get set it up, the first thing would happen, they get the money back. Why wouldn't they want to do it? 6 figures. What? I said, he says, I think I can get more. You got 25,000 more. The next day, FedEx comes with a contract.
Wow.
They didn't want to make the movie, but they were afraid the script was too good. Somebody else can make the movie. And then they would let
That's so crazy. Yeah.
That's must happen while we're talking. It's probably happening.
Yep.
It's the most common thing that they do to protect themselves. The studio, this executive is saying, what if Dustin changes his mind and does the movie and it makes $1 billion? And we had that and you let it go? They don't want to take that chance for this kind of money to pay me off, and then that's it, boom. So I couldn't take it anywhere else. And to this day, they own it.
Wow. Now, does that happen every 5 years, or is it just a
No, you got
thing?
one shot. That's it. And then they own it in perpetuity. That's it. And, that's the way the ball bounces or the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, or the ball crumbles and the cookie bounces.
Yeah, they both crumble and bounce. But cookie could bounce, I guess.
Yep.
But, so that's what I mean. I was warm. They had me up for Scooby-Doo.
Wow.
All these, once I wrote the Dustin Hoffman thing, they go, oh, you are sensitive. That's why I got Never Ending Story. That script got me warm in the middle because they said, oh, you have this other side we didn't know about. And so all of a sudden, family movies. And, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. They did sequels.
Mm-hmm.
They had me up at Disney. They said, would you consider writing Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves? And so in the pitch, I thought it was so ludicrous. So I said, yeah, the dog eats them, right? And the whole movie's they're inside the dog. At the end, the dog shits out the family. They all went, okay, Jeff, we're gonna. You're not writing Honey, we Shrunk Ourselves. That was the only thing I could think of, is that visual with the dog.
They're riding out, yeah.
And then
that would have went back to your love of The Incredible Shrinking Man. So it would have been a full circle.
There
would have been your
uh,
shrinking journey.
There was one with Michael Jackson. I mean, once you get into those meetings, and they just whatever sticks to the wall, and they throw money at it. That's the weird part, And I don't feel it when I'm writing. I make an assumption it's going to be a movie. I guess you have to. I don't do it,
Yeah.
for any other reason. But if you look at the odds, it's not going to be. So Cine Muerte is, I own it. There's no money lien against it. So if anybody out there is won the lottery or is just born with a silver spoon and you feel guilty about it, you should. And to release you of this burden of responsibility. Jeff Lieberman, director.com.
Right. In any state. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been very fun talking with you, Jeff.
Oh yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where are you in Blurry land?
We're both in Massachusetts. I'm on Cape Cod.
He's Troy's Blurry.
My background is it's my basement.
No, but is that really your basement, or you have one of those fake back?
Oh no, it's his real. He blurs it out though, so you can't see it.
I didn't know you could do that. How does it mat you out?
It's just through the StreamYard. It's one of the things on their video settings.
Oh, because I did one where I was on a tropical island. You ever see that? But it's so if you just move a little bit, you break the the mat line.
Yeah, I kind of do with this a little bit, you know.
A friend of mine did something really clever. When he closed his office, he took a picture of his office. With
interesting.
The furniture and everything. Yeah. So when you see him on Zoom, it's exactly like you saw him when you were in his office.
Yeah.
Like sitting in
here is the actual basement.
Yeah, it just looked it's perfect. I don't have an office.
Yeah, you need a tropical island.
Yeah, I don't have that either. Yeah. Anyway, guys, so
this is great.
Just remember that if you want the book or the remote control Blu-ray, which looks great, Kevin Dillon, Jennifer Tilly, Jeff Lieberman, director.com.
And I'll put the link right here after the show, and I'll put it up on the website so people, if they don't know how to spell, they can just click on it and they'll take it.
Yeah, because the whole idea is that I can sign it. Otherwise,
yeah.
when
that's
they buy
always
on
fun, though.
Amazon, they're paying the same money and they all want it signed, and I can't get through to Amazon to sign it. So
yeah, no, I think that's great. And
right,
I love the book, not just because you're here. I really enjoyed the book. I flew right through it.
You didn't read it.
I listened to it, but I flew through it. Yeah. See,
So,
I walk miles a day, and to keep motivated.
You know what, Neal? The disadvantage of that, in the case of my book, is it has really cool pictures in it.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I could still get a copy of the book, and I could put it up behind me here, and after I look at it, and then it could sit on the shelf.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it has a lot of
cool pictures. Yeah,
cool pictures all the way through, and you don't get that on the. Well,
no,
wait a minute. To get the Kindle, you can see the pictures too.
Oh.
Yeah, but it would be nice to have the an autograph
physical book. Yeah, especially with an autograph.
Yeah, John Landis gives them out as gifts.
Nice.
He really I saw him last month. The Masters of Horror.
Yeah, I saw a photo of that up on your Facebook.
Yeah, it was great seeing those guys. The ones that are not dead, anyway. And
well, the dead ones probably weren't there, I guess.
Well, we don't know that.
They just have them on display.
No, because I saw a couple of glasses moving. Weird.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, all right.
They could have
especially with a Masters of Horror type thing.
Yeah, that's very fitting.
Yeah, it was the Smokehouse, great restaurant. So yeah, but he was ordering the books and giving them out to friends. So that's pretty good.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's really nice of him. What's your favorite movie of his?
Oh, do you know that he did Kentucky Fried Movie?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yep. I haven't seen that in a million years.
That Kentucky Fried Movie. I never talked to him about it, but Kentucky Fried Movie was one of like 5 movies that were like that. One of them was my mentor, the guy I talked about before, Ernie Pintoff, did Dynamite Chicken. Dynamite Chicken
think I've
was
seen
the
that
same
one.
thing. It was just vignettes and bits for 90 minutes. And then there was Groove Tube was another
yeah.
one. They were all, but I think Kentucky Fried Chicken was the best. It was the funniest. So I don't know. Blues Brothers, I thought it was a stretched out bit, Saturday Night Live bit, which it was. And I just think, he's a very funny guy. He's done great documentaries that nobody's not. He did a
I didn't know that,
documentary on Don Rickles. I think it was HBO.
Oh, wow.
Fucking brilliant. Nobody would say, oh, and then he did another one, a used car salesman. No, a salesman. It was called The Closer or something. You can find it. That it's a guy that professionally goes to car dealerships and gets rid of their inventory like in 2 days. He's a bullshit artist, a real guy.
Yeah.
And John did that documentary, and it's terrific.
I'll have to
I didn't know that actually.
Then, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Nobody knows it.
No.
And the Rickles one is
I'm a huge
great.
John Rickles fan, so
yeah.
that would be fun to check that out.
Yeah, you should see it.
Yeah.
And then, the guy did. It's very funny, very sharp, very funny.
Yeah, it seems like that goes together a lot. Funny people in horror movies.
It's true.
Well,
Yeah.
Listen, horror is setup. It's timing of a setup and a joke. Same as comedy, a setup and a joke, and it's all based on the timing of it. A lot of times in comedy, people laugh because you say something so quick that they don't have a chance to not laugh because and the same thing with the horror, the scares. It's the same rhythm. It's telling a joke, setup, punchline. Horror. When I'm doing it, it's the thing with the cat. Right? It's like a joke. It's really funny. He's going to splatter a cat like that, and the beat is the same exact thing. And you're supposed to laugh.
Yeah.
There's a hip audience see that movie, and they laugh when they see that. The boo. And there's other people. There's other people that.
I was saying comedy and horror is also the most fun movies to watch with an audience because you react while you're watching them.
Yeah. And
you're not going to sit around and cry.
In Satan's Little Helper, they needed like permission to laugh. Like they felt a lot of things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then somebody else laughs and then they laugh because they're trying not to laugh because it's like not politically correct or whatever. Laughing. So, and then once the audience is into it, then they'll laugh at everything. Then they all have permission to laugh through the whole thing. Because basically, to me, that was a comedy.
Yeah. So Satan's Little Helper and Blue Sunshine are on Shudder. You get the Blue Sunshine from Synapse, and you get remote control from yourself on Jeff Lieberman director.com.
You should have it. They used to have that across the bottom of the screen, and they tell you that in New Jersey, it's figured in 9, 2, and then that's figured over and over again. What was that phone number again? Jeff Lieberman, director.
775-3981.
All right, guys.
Across the bottom here. All right, this was really fun. Thank you for doing this. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah,
Come back anytime.
Where are you guys, by the way?
We're both in Massachusetts.
Oh, how come you don't have an accent?
Troy's got a little bit of one.
I think I have a little bit more than Neal does. No, I always think I sound like a homeless crackhead from Boston or something.
That you do, yeah.
I got a little bit of that going on.
That's not an accent. It's a way of life.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I've been
Neal's is
told,
hard to tell.
one guest told me once, and I never knew how to take this. They said I had a nondescript American accent. I was like, I don't know. That doesn't sound good. I don't know. But
I don't know if there's such a thing as an American accent. I guess there is to
I guess
French.
yeah, if you're from
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah. All right, guys. Take care.
All right. You
Thank
as
you
well.
so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
The old peace sign.
Get that. We put it up there. All
Oh,
right.
boom, 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 boom.
All right. That was cool. Jeff
That was
Lieberman.
super fun.
Yeah.
He was the marathon man.
Yeah.
Jeff
Yeah.
Lieberman.
Yeah. That was great.
Yep.
So I don't know. 3.5 hours. Should we talk about anything else? Do you think that's a good show?
I think that'll do it, Chief. I don't really have anything going down right now myself.
I had prepared some stuff, but I'm gonna record an interview tomorrow.
Okay.
It's in the evening. So I'm thinking I might save some of the stuff I want to talk about, and we'll do a bonus show tomorrow. I mean, you don't have to
I
be
like
there,
it.
but if you would like to be there,
I'll try to be. I'll see what's
All right.
going down.
all right. Sounds good. But yeah, I want to talk about some new stuff from B-Stream that's out there, some new toys that are out there. I've got some news here, but I do want to say this for all you folks out there who want to watch movies on the B-Stream. It's thebstream.com, and they've got all kinds of cool classic cult movies. Some of them I never heard of, but that's what makes a cult film. Then they've got new releases. They got festival favorites. They've got stuff that we grew up watching. Use promo code NOHEAD.
No.
NOHEAD, NOHEAD. That is the Without Your Head promo code. And you can get yourself a discount to the B-Stream, which we're going to be working with in the future here. Hit the like button, subscribe, share this out, hit that little icon, the bell icon, so you get a notification every time we are live. And if you'd like to help support the channel, become a member. It starts at only $3 a month. And I just 4 members, so you get the cool emojis or the 8-bit emojis that you don't get unless you're a member. And the $3 and up, you will also get restored episodes of the audio-only shows. I started adding them. I just added Sid Haig and Adam Green. So back in the day, these were recorded on Skype, usually on someone's phone, and not a great internet. It wasn't high, it wasn't broadband internet back then. It wasn't high-speed internet. So the audio is a little rough. So what I've done now with AI, actually, is I've helped restore that audio, take out all the roughness, and they sound better than they ever have. So that is some bonus content for members. And not only the interviews, but the whole episodes are up there. So we talk about whatever back in the day. You can also get shout outs here on the show. And at the top tier, you can get IMDb credits if you so desire. But even the $3 tier, you get all the bonus shows. And we appreciate it. It helps pay for the show here. All right. Thank you. Old Punk in Paradise. I think this was the first time he's been here. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Didn't expect to be broadcasting my nonsensical ramblings tonight, but hell, it's Joe fucking Lieberman. All right.
Damn right it is.
Yes. Classic Without Your Head is great stuff. Thank you, Dave Deadman.
Thank you.
I believe next week, Annabelle will be returning here on the show. And we will be having James Balsamo, Michael J. Epstein, Sophia Cassiola, and some select cast members of Bite School 2, including Joe Castro will be returning to the show. And so that'll be a really fun. That's going to be a wild show. And then after that, Billy Coyne will be joining us, who's been an effects artist over the last 2 decades, independent film effects artist. And he'll also be in Our Man Funk, which is coming up in a couple weeks.
Wow.
11 days, I think I'll be filming that.
Time is ticking.
Yes, I'll be playing Truett.
Cool.
So thanks everybody. Thanks all the people who also donated to the website. You got these cool Easter cards like this. Look at this. Boom.
Love it. That is too cool.
Look at all these nice folks who
Ooh.
helped support the website. You can still get one if you would like. You donate $5 or more and you will get one to send me a photo. It could be yourself or it could be your festival like we showed earlier. Look at all these nice friendly fans and friends of the podcast. Many former guests here. And look, I even did one of us.
Nice. I
Look
know
at
that
that.
crazy bastard.
The chef.
Chef's kiss.
All right. And this Saturday, well, actually, it's going on right now. It's a Wicked Queer Film Festival. And I'll talk about this more coming up. But Joshua Pangborn's Brooklyn Butcher is playing. And Brooklyn Butcher was an official selection. The trailer was an official selection at Severed Limb 17. We also showed some of his short films. This is his feature film, and it's playing Saturday at the Brattle. And he's going to be there. He's making the trip from New York. So I'm going to come up to Boston and meet him. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, that's mad cool. Very nice.
All right. So until next time, I think we'll do a show tomorrow. Might be a short show. I don't know. And until then, this is Nasty Neal.
And I'm Terrible Troy.
And this is Without
Your
Head.
Ah!